All right, thank you for joining us for our August 15th East Aurora Village Board meeting. If you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. You got a roll call attendance, please, Maureen.
Trustee Lizickis,
Here.
trustee Cameron,
Here.
trustee Vijay,
Here.
trustee Flynn,
Here.
trustee Kimmelhart,
Here.
trustee Shear,
Here.
Mayor Mercurio.
Present.
7 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. I get a motion to approve the minutes of the village board meeting for July 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second. Second by Marcia. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I got a motion to approve the payment of abstract for 8/1/2022 for voucher numbers 62498 to 62555 for a total of $177,339.85. Moved by Marcia, second.
Second.
Second by Grace. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve the payment of abstracts for 8/15/2022 for voucher numbers 62556 to 62603 for a total of $560,778.93.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
I'll second.
Second by Molly. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. All right, this is our first speakers and communications. If you have something you'd like to comment on that maybe isn't part of the public hearings, because during the public hearings, you will get a chance to speak, the public will. Otherwise, any other issue or question or comment, raise your hand when called on. Please come up to the microphone if you're able and give us your name and address and tell us what your thoughts are. Anyone? Miss?
Excuse me.
No, it's just us, Leslie. It's just us.
Met with you the other night. Leslie Wade, live at 239 Sycamore Street, village resident taxpayer. And a lot of us are concerned about the direction that the park is going into. As far as the 3 courts that are being installed, we wonder if it is a minority or a majority in this village that are wanting these things. And what is the use? Who's going to be using these? What is, as far as the time allotment, like, are they going to be used for 4 or 5 days out of the year? Or I'm sorry, 4 or 5 months out of the year. Super nervous here, sorry. 4 or 5 months out of the year. So here we're spending between $300,000 and $400,000 on 3 courts that we feel is small minority using these, and the fact that they're really only in use for a short period of time during the year. The big thing that we're concerned about are the bathrooms, and this has been an issue. We've lived at Sycamore for 35 years. We walk around the park lot with our dog 3 times a day. We see who's using the park, and the biggest thing that everybody complains about are the bathrooms. They're not ADA compliant. We have many friends that will have their grandchildren down at the park. They come to our house to use the bathroom because they can't take a daughter into the one stall because of the mess that they have. We have our son's friends that'll come over with their kids because they can't use the bathrooms. This has been going on for years and years, probably the same bathrooms that I used when I was 5 years old. Okay. And it really needs to be addressed. And we feel that this ARPA money, that some of this should have been put aside to address the bathroom issue. And I know that Pete said that there were 2 grants, right, that have been denied. 1, 2.
How many grants have we applied for? 2?
2 grants.
2 that we
right?
do not get, yeah.
And they you have not gotten them. So this is something that I found out that I thought was interesting. And I hear that you're talking about $1 million for these bathrooms.
Yeah, the engineer at the time, 5 years ago, when we did the Hamlin Park Master Plan, said around $1 million at that time.
Well,
Was it? For the grants? That's for the building and the parking lots and the sidewalk, the ADA sidewalks too, though, right? Just for the building?
I guess that's doing 2 bathrooms though.
That building included 2 larger bathrooms, men's and women's.
Well,
and a water fountain.
the town is using their ARPA money and they're putting in ADA compliant bathrooms over by community pool. They're actually going to bump it up to the existing bathrooms that you have access through the community pool. They're doing a concrete block 8x16. It's ADA compliant. They have 3 stalls for women, 3 stalls for men. 2 are handicapped, and they also have changing tables, which are ADA compliant. And they're looking for bids now. They should come in August 23rd, and they're talking between $60,000 and $70,000. So I
For,
mean,
for those bathrooms?
yes,
No,
that is kind
No.
of what well, that's.
there's no way they're getting all that for $60,000. You can't put a
Well-
bathroom in your house for that size for $60,000.
Okay.
Hmm.
And this is just a quote, because they haven't got all the bids in, but I'm just saying that it's quite a lot less than what you're telling me, $1 million.
Well, the other, that was a community facility, wasn't there a community room attached to this?
For a park building, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't
Mhm.
just a bathroom, that was also a community room that was attached to it, so it's a lot, much larger building, would have had a,
As they said, concrete block, their
Mhm.
estimates for an 8x16, okay? I guess the point is this, is that they're doing this, and I mean, we all in this room can say, Dan Fiddler, all the times we played tennis together down there in the 1980s. This is an issue. I mean, there's neighbors down the street that have a tree where all these kids, young adults are coming over and they're going to the bathroom. And they're by their back gate, and it's been going on for years. And I just feel really that in looking at what ARPA is asking, it says there's four categories permitted uses of ARPA. Okay, now this is before, I know things got restrictions were eased up, but the first one is funds fall into 4 categories. 1 for costs associated with responding to the pandemic, 2 to support essential workers, 3 to cover revenue losses raised by COVID-19, 4 to make necessary infrastructure investments. That's going to benefit the whole village community, not a small portion that plays pickleball, that plays tennis, or plays basketball. And I have been counting for the last 7 days how many kids are on that basketball court, and it's minimal. Okay. Yes, the rec department uses it those 6 weeks. There's a lot of 47 kids use that. Okay, for 6 weeks. Treasury Department guidelines gave communities broad flexibility to determine the best ways to maximize the funding to meet local public health and economic needs. I think this should be addressed, okay? I think that the ARPA money is just going to a small group of people and not benefiting all of us that are taxpayers. And I guess, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Do I have 2 minutes? I guess I just wanted to know one thing. I know that when you did that 2016 survey, that survey showed that the highest areas of use in that park are the playground, open fields, and passive areas, green space. We witnessed that the night before they dug up for the tennis courts. That whole area was being used by girls doing lacrosse practice, young family with a toy drone, a senior citizen sitting there dozing and reading whatever. 2 little girls with a frisbee. This is the night before. I mean, first of all, what specific evidence or that you have that shows that there is a great need for this versus bathrooms or maybe that ARPA money being used for Elm Street? I mean, Elm Street, someone's gonna get hurt, on that street. That's a danger. So was there some sort of, I know this in the 2016 survey came up with that, and it also said that 50% of the respondents were not village residents. Is that true? I mean, that's what I have from going through that survey. So where did you come up with the idea that you're going to spend $400,000 on redoing basketball courts and putting in tennis and pickleball courts? I don't know where. I'm just curious. Does anybody tell you? I mean, was there?
I
know there's-
I remember the exact details of it 5 years ago.
We have a master plan for the park, and this is the first step in the bathrooms are definitely on. That's been a big topic of conversation with us, the bathrooms. I know.
The weirdest thing, I had friends that was just calling me, no idea that I wrote a letter together, see the letter that
Sure.
that I wrote, and then also an editorial by the publisher. But I mean, this has been going on for so long, and I mean, we're talking about bathrooms where everybody in the park can use suitable bathrooms, better ADA compliant, and I just don't know where you came up with thinking that
The use of the money first, we should have done the bathrooms first, is what you're saying, as opposed to.
bathroom area. know, if it's that much, maybe put that 600,000 aside and use it for, you know, one of that. You know, start with that and then go to the second. I mean, people can't use the bathrooms in the park.
Sure, on
I mean, I'm just,
the master plan committee, what was our phasing on that? Who's on that? I'm not on that one,
Yeah.
so.
Where was the
What's
original
date?
5-year plan had a $1+ million building with new bathrooms so that parents who were in the playground and had little kids right now, they got to send them all the way around to our players building to the bathroom by the road. So they have to basically take all their family over there, you know, because you don't want to just leave a toddler to run over there. So the plan was to put the building where the existing rec building is, the park building, and tear that down, update that building, have a social room in there for people to use and bathrooms in the front so that people could see it from the playground. That was part of the plan. I don't have the plan in front of me right now. Was that the first year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been the first year.
And we
And-
just decided not to spend that money. at the
Well,
time.
I
then
think we-
Oakwood happened and then the
Right.
sinkhole
Yeah,
happened
yeah,
and we're
yes.
like, those are must-haves. Park improvements are a nice to have, right? The playground equipment needs to be updated. The baseball field needed to be updated, right? The track was growing and it was only about 4.5 feet wide at one point. So the park needed a lot of TLC. So we're like, all right, we're gonna do this a little more à la carte when we have the money for it. And we focused on the big infrastructure projects like Oakwood and the culvert, the sinkhole. And so we've been picking away at things in the bathroom. We didn't have money for a big bathroom building, right? But that's a big priority for us. So we should be caught up. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do that. But it would have been nice to get the grants, right? Problem is when you apply for the grants, the federal money or the state money, you have to wait 6 or 8 months for your answer, which kind of freezes you and doesn't let you do anything. So we're like, all right, let's at least, I'm like, let's get the track done, right? People use that track all through COVID. People are on that track all the time. I know you said you loved it. All different ages use it.
basketball people, very few people are using that, okay? And there are a number of people that use the track. The nice thing about it is people that are physically able, and from young to old, people, I see people with wheelchairs, walkers, that sort of thing. So green space and bathrooms, and I just think you have that golden opportunity with that money. And it's gonna feel like you're spending it on something that really there isn't that majority need for in sports. And I can't understand it. And I've never complained, my husband's never complained, but, and I told you that the other night. I mean, you know where we live, our gate's right where the.
Right there.
We, you know, I mean, that tennis court, we watched that go right down. And that's the other thing we're worried about upkeep, because we've seen a lot of things, you know, the court was used by kids, you know, doing hockey or whatever, when there wasn't anybody playing tennis, and it, you know, just over a course of 12 years, there was absolutely no upkeep whatsoever. And I told you, my husband and I would go over with a shovel and a broom and a garbage can to pick up the garbage and sweep up the glass. I
Yeah.
mean, so we're concerned about that too,
Right.
you know, I mean, who's gonna upkeep all this?
Like I told you, it's the village government's job to keep up on village resources, right? And as a resident, you can hold whoever is in the government at the time, you know, in 10 years or 15 years, if it starts to be an issue, you can hold whoever accountable for it. But we also, a group of residents, I'm not sure if any of them are here, the Friends of Hamlin Park kind of formed a friends group. And so I was talking with Ernie and we thought, what about making it like a park and green space board? And some of them want to become part of that. So there'll be an actual committee that will help, you know, keep the government
Regular
dialed
meetings,
into it. Yeah.
report back to the board, regular meetings, and not just dealing with Hamlin Park, but also the other public parks like Casanova, Creek. You know, that we.
Sinking pond.
Sinking ponds, that we be in sync with what should happen there. And that we have, people like you who maybe have a vested interest in making sure that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That might be, I mean, I don't know what your schedule looks like, but that might be something you
Well,
want to
I asked
become a
Jen-
part of.
I asked to be in that committee years ago and I gave them all my information, never got contacted, so.
That was the
whatever
old Friends of Hamlin.
miscommunication.
There was an old Friends of Hamlin a while
It was
back
a
and
committee that was
Yeah.
formed. Jack and a few other people. But, you know, I'm just gonna end on this note. And everyone in this village that I know, and I've grown up here, lived here all my life, they're very, very disappointed that you used ARPA money for things that they feel the priority should have been those bathrooms. And I'm sick and tired, honestly, of letting people use their bathrooms all the time. No, I mean, you know, when So anyway, that's my point, okay? And I hope that you consider doing new bathrooms soon.
Patrick Shea, 486 Griggs Place. We had a meeting with the trustees, minutes, it seemed like minutes before the tennis court started going in. But you make a mention of the master plan. The master plan is not being followed. The permanent installation of the bleachers, that's not in the master plan. The master plan had rotating the athletic field to a north-south orientation. That can't be done anymore. So that was where the tennis courts are now. The master plan, page 16 and 17, if you go to look it up, is where that was cited. To say now that you couldn't put money into bathrooms because it was a huge building, you're right. That was a very expensive part that came out of that master plan. And I say this as a former trustee, as well as somebody who was on the master plan committee, that was a huge bite. There's no doubt about it, but there would have been nothing to stop putting bathrooms in to that building. That master plan had 4 bathrooms going in, 2 from the exterior, 2 from the interior, all ADA compliant. One of the big points of the master plan was making the park ADA compliant. Nothing you've done here is move that marker anywhere near being done. So that could have been a possible use for these funds too. Instead, my issue with the tennis courts is the high school spending a ton of taxpayers' money putting in new tennis courts up at the high school. The town just put 2 new tennis courts over at the community pool part, as well as pickleball courts. So we're seeming to be redundant in what we're doing here. As well as Leslie said, how will they be used? Will there be times when they'll be usable? Are you putting lights in again? Or since you pulled all the power out of there, I believe, are we putting lights back in? Or will it be closed at dusk like the rest of the park? These are all the questions that I didn't see written up in the minutes, other than we're going to have this money spent. There was a planning committee put together in 16 and 17. You approved the plan in 2020, and it doesn't seem like anybody read it before you approved it, because this was not in the plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
David Hirsch, 145 King Street. I understand there's a pull on resources. Sounds like we've got too many tennis courts. I'd like to talk about sidewalks. My neighbor at 147 King Street recently had the works department outside his house taking down a really big tree outside right in front of his house. In the course of taking it down, they dropped a couple of big limbs and broke 2 slabs. The cracks that occurred are really small. You can only notice them now because they've got fluorescent pink crosses on them. But so my question is, why would the town has said they're going to put these slabs back, reinstate them, which to me seems strange because of the 4-inch drop. Just a few slabs down, there's a 4-inch step from one slab to another. And I understand that the town policy is that as residents, we're responsible for the sidewalk outside our house, right? But how can you say on one hand that you're going to replace 2 slabs with hairline cracks in them, and then just over here is basically a safety hazard, and you don't want to do anything about that, or you won't. It's my responsibility to do that. Well, in the winter, I shovel my sidewalk, and I blow the leaves off in the summer. But to me, maybe that's something that the town could look at is spending some money on infrastructure, which and an important one, which is the sidewalks, because they're a mess right through the town. I'm sure a lot of people agree.
So just to clarify, the sidewalks are in front of your house with the cracks in them?
No, they're in front of my neighbor's house, 147, but in front of my house is a 4-inch.
Is a 4-inch drop?
It's gotten worse over the last year. The roots obviously are lifting it.
Okay,
Um,
Matt, are you familiar with this property? Do you want to add anything or no?
I'm not familiar with it.
I've called the works
Maureen?
department a couple of times. Right.
Yeah, that would be right into the place though, if we broke them.
Okay, so the town's replacing because they're responsible for damage, correct?
Well,
So who's responsible for the damage to the sidewalk that's lifting out front of my house?
that's all residents replacement. They were doing something, we broke that while they were doing it. We were replacing.
But why, I mean, I don't want to throw my neighbor under the bus, but he's getting 2 fresh slabs of pavement. There's no, the sidewalk's totally level, it's fine. Just got 2 little hairline cracks. Whereas outside my house, the pavement's lifted 4 inches. Not by my doing, I didn't do it. I realized the town didn't do it, not recently anyway, but the tree was planted not by me. Well, I know it's unfortunate, but why isn't it being looked at? I think it's just arbitrary and wrong to expect residents to pay out to replace slabs that are lifted by trees that they didn't plant. That's my view anyway.
Is the tree between the street and the sidewalk?
Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Well, it's in the public right away.
It's our tree. That's an interesting.
Right.
question.
Yeah, that's the current policy. Just 1 second. Yeah, the current policy is the sidewalks are the residents' responsibility. And they're responsible for keeping them up to date. I know before I was even on the board, I got a call from the code enforcement officer at the time. And he said someone had called and complained that one of my sidewalks had been lifted by a tree that was in the right of way. It had gone up maybe 2 inches. And she was in a wheelchair. She lived on my block and she wasn't able to get up over. She had to always come from the other direction because she couldn't get over the 2 inch. And I'm like, great. I had no idea. I went out there with a sledge, broke it up, chopped the root out, poured new concrete, fixed it. And it hasn't been an issue, but the policy is still the same, that it's the resident's responsibility.
So get my angle when I get out there and just make this. Wasn't fucking.
It's
I
on
mean-
your property. Yeah. So yes, you can go break it up. If it's on your property, you can go break it up and put in a new square. That's what I did. I had my kids there and I made a mess of it. That's the policy?
I'd started to do some research on this a while ago because I was thinking that policy sounds a little crazy and I was trying to see what other communities in the area do. I haven't looked at, every single suburb of Buffalo at this stage, but the maybe 8 or so that I looked at, everybody had a policy where the residents had to replace it. It seems to be, it doesn't mean that we need to do it because everybody's doing it. But I was sort of surprised to see that myself. That it's not a unique issue.
What? Yeah, go ahead. You have something?
Just so you understand, I represent a number of municipalities in the area. They all have the residents repairing them, everyone.
Sure.
Colleen?
I'm here on another
It's
matter
fine.
tonight,
Sure,
but on the
go ahead.
subject of
Wide open.
Colleen Scott, 58 Pine Street. On the subject of the trees and the sidewalks, I have a similar situation developing in front of my house. And my question is, am I then allowed to cut the trees down to keep, if I'm gonna fix the sidewalk, can I get rid of the problem?
Absolutely.
Am I permitted to cut the trees down
No,
there?
that's not if it's a village tree.
Oh, it's in the.
In the right of
away-
way,
In the
that's
right of
like-
way,
yeah.
right.
I mean, why replace the sidewalk? Trees just gonna keep
Right.
growing. I'm fine. Oh, that, well, don't get me started on county maintenance of Pine Street. We can go all night on that. But my understanding is that's not a tree for me to manage. And so let's say in this gentleman's case, he's not on a county road, is a resident allowed to remove the problem and take a tree down?
They're not.
Yeah, I guess it's a double-edged sword, right? It's in the right of way, so you're responsible for it, but you don't have total power over it, which is the existing policy in most municipalities in New York State, from what we understand. So, yeah. Yeah. Pat,
It's getting to be a habit. Sorry about that. Regarding the trees, the sidewalks, I suggested this to a couple of trustees that there should possibly be a move to try and curtail the number of these large white silver maple trees. They're getting very brittle. They're getting very old. And my point would be, not, I don't want this branded, I don't like trees. I think they could be replaced with smaller, more street worthy trees in areas that wouldn't be causing all the upheaval of sidewalks. And it is, and it always has been a responsibility of the residents to do the sidewalks. And I think to a degree, it comes down to a liability issue that if you're aware the sidewalk is raised, you need to replace it. Otherwise, the village would be running around replacing sidewalks like crazy. And the liability is really on the homeowner instead of the village. My second point is something I noticed tonight walking over here. There is a dumpster on the street in front of a house, not too far from mine. And I've just been informed there's nothing in the village ordinance that prevents somebody from putting a huge dumpster in the middle of, at the curb of a street with no pylons, nothing.
like in a
Make
parking
anybody aware.
space
It's, well,
or
I
two?
think there is parking on that side of the street, but it's bigger than a car. So my concern would be somebody driving down at night, running into that. There's nothing. And I would think that surprises me that there's nothing in our ordinance that requires that kind of safety or security issue for something that could be that much of a safety issue for drivers, for bikers at night, to have that sitting there. So I would ask you if you would please consider that as a possible amendment to the village code. Right, thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Shane, how do you handle, I was just gonna ask,
Oh, go
how do
ahead.
you handle that kind of thing? Like, I remember I had a trailer that had a camper that had a broken axle. And I called the PD at the time, said, hey, I gotta get it off the street, but I can't get it off for another day and a half or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, just
It's not an abandoned vehicle or dumpster. And it's in a park property, park next to the curb. We usually will let it go for, dumpsters. It's not uncommon to do that, Pat. Usually dumpsters have reflectors on them. I'll have to go check on that, but that's usually the case, and it's not uncommon if somebody's doing work on their house that they, especially in the village where some front yards are too small for a dumpster, or if bikes are trucked to back into a driveway, to put it in the driveway. If you guys unloading sector, or if somebody's doing lawn maintenance, they put pylons around the trailer. Sure. I think mine flying. There's something sitting in the middle of a public road. There's nothing to warn traffic, anybody that that thing is there. But like I said, you're unloading something, they got to put pylons on. Yeah, generally a dumpster though isn't any bigger than a pickup. I mean, it's maybe a few inches on either side, but. Yeah. Okay, we'll take a look. And then I don't have to fight.
Sure. Pat, just to address the point that you made about the trees, I can find the link on YouTube. That's Ernie had a wonderful pro-tree, anti-silver maple rant a few months ago. The tree board for quite some time now, clearly they didn't in the past, but for some time now has had a list of like approved trees. So when they're going around planting the street trees, no silver maples.
board of trustees.
Yes.
They are a committee. You can put it down.
Mhm.
To make that. And put money in the budget that you get control over also.
Sure.
To put money in the budget.
Right. What I'm saying is that there are no silver maples being planted in that area anymore. Everything's looking at sidewalk upheaval and power lines and, yeah. I see.
Okay, you've got a suggestion and you can look at it. Let's move on.
Anybody else?
My name's Holly Maciaski and I live at 218 Center Street. And I just have one question about the Hamlin Park situation. Is I felt that I was here a couple months ago and this board and this mayor worked so hard to listen to the concerns that my neighbors and I had and did so much, were able to do so much about it. And I so appreciate that. And I think you probably all know that. So going to the Hamlin Park thing, is there now, I didn't know any of the processes. I'd have to call you up and say, okay, how do we do this? I didn't know how to do anything. And is there a process that can be followed to put ADA compliant bathrooms ahead of pickleball courts? Because anybody, I'm lucky I'm standing here, but you know what I mean? There could be somebody else who needs that ADA compliant bathroom. Is there a process to follow that could put that ahead of pickleball? That's my question. Thanks.
Thanks, Holly.
Is there?
It sounds like the master plan needs to be
I was gonna say, I
reevaluated
think-
in my opinion. I'm new,
we need to
I'm new,
step back.
but
Part
I'm
of the
just
master
saying.
plan, it was a multi-purpose court that was part of it, that was going to be with a special surface on it. That we were concerned was gonna get wrecked, but it was part of it, it could be used for. Many different, remember? Different types of activities. There was going to be a hard surface court in the park. Not where the tennis courts were, but it would be.
Same size, it was gonna be where that one volleyball net is
It's
closer to
opposite,
the,
yeah, the other side. It was going to be, that was part of the master plan.
But then that would involve tearing down the announcer's booth pavilion and the football field rotation, only let half the field rest, the other half would still be right in the middle and stay muddy. And so I think we massaged that one. And then the basketball court, we talked about moving it over by where the volleyball net is now.
Yeah.
But then concerns of the neighbors are concerned about the noise. So then we decided we'd put it back in its old spot, but facing north-south, right next to it. Tear out the old court, return that to green space. This moves the basketball court farther from the playground, where the little kids are less likely to be hit by a ball, which happens. Or hear, the older guys swearing when they're playing games, which guys do. So it gave them some space from the playground. But it's still in a spot where, you have the Aurora Players Building on one side, you have the Grove on one side, you have the entire length of the park on the other. And then the noise wise, it just goes towards the playground. But the bathrooms are part of a bigger project. The football bathrooms. I don't know what would be involved. You remember what the plan said about the football bathrooms as far as updating them? That building's fine. It's just a cinder block building.
I had talked to someone about possibly putting in a false wall. In the center, opening up the doors and then having like a space between the men's and women's rooms where all the plumbing would come into. So you could access that from a secure door to, and then you'd use prison grade. Facilities.
There's a.
Well,
phrase.
because the porcelain gets damaged. I mean, there's a lot of damage that's done, and if you have access to the plumbing fixtures, people rip them, tear them, steal them. A lot of that would be, and then a low water flow, urinals in the men's room. And then somehow maybe increase the size somewhat, bring it out a little bit to make it ADA compliant. And that might not, be as expensive. You'd have like a separate, hallway or room that you could access to the plumbing, and there'd be no plumbing exposed in either the men's room or the women's room. Therefore, you wouldn't have the vandalism problems that we've had with where they're
Tearing out all the faucets.
stealing the valves, like one year they stole when they steal the
all the fixtures, right? All the brass fittings or whatever, and let all the water run all over.
Yeah, it was like, where they smashed.
It was in the middle of the day,
porcelain
too.
Bathroom.
So why don't we add that to our ask? I know part of your discussion today is gonna be on the capital committee.
Yep.
Have them add that to our list as far as things we'd like to see. Updating and making the football bathrooms ADA compliant. That's a smaller project we could do sooner
Absolutely.
and wouldn't be the big nut of buying that, that whole
Well,
building.
And I think
doing the whole-
Matt and his crew needs to be in on this because they're the ones that maintain it.
Right.
And what would they like to see and what would make their jobs easier? So they're not constantly having to go in there and refix.
Yeah.
And repair and
I like
replace.
prison grade,
things that
but
are
isn't
damaged.
paint's a great picture.
Well, you go to a hockey rink, well, hockey rinks and athletic complexes, that's what they do now because, team loses, they get angry, they're smashing things.
They, when they get
That's the
excited.
reality of today. I mean,
Smash thing.
and, well, I work at a middle school and there's bathroom down the hallway. It was damaged multiple times by kids because of the TikTok thing. Where they had that thing last year where it goes past the
Really?
bathroom. Oh, yeah, they
Good Lord.
ripped the stall doors down, they poured. Almost every day they're taking the paper towel dispenser out the wall, they smashed a porcelain toilet.
But I think we could even do a few interim things, because going through the bathroom by the football field, even just having plastic paper towel dispensers is not a good idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's things that are ripped down off the wall. It's really embarrassing, I think, to the community. Because those bathrooms do get a lot of use by people coming from other towns for athletic events.
Well,
Yeah, I think
go
we
to-
said we could probably put like a decent garbage in there, not an oil can.
I mean, I go to other places, like I go to Inlet, New York and the Adirondacks, I'll be going there next week, Old Forge. And they have public restrooms and they're well maintained and they're clean and they're ADA compliant. And, somebody's keeping up on that and, they're not like the bathroom we have down by the football field, which is,
So suffice it to say, we are going to look into renovating the football bathrooms as a priority as opposed to, I'm not gonna say in lieu of the other things we already.
No, but
were
we can add
starting,
it to
but
our list.
We
of
could add it
things
to our
Right.
list.
To do, and it's a lower hanging fruit than
Oh,
doing the
yeah.
full bathroom park building.
And it's
Right,
probably the more
bonding for
heavily
that.
used one anyway.
Right.
Part.
Shouldn't there be options?
Well, I guess you guys did start the process, so you didn't have to ask anything.
All right, anyone else? Sue? We record everything. Thank you.
Hi, Sue Bodkin, 285 Fleet Avenue. Just to briefly revisit the sidewalk situation. I'd been told years ago that the homeowner owned, no, excuse me, that's incorrect. The village owned from the sidewalk out. So is that not true? Because if it's not true, logically in my mind, ownership constitutes responsibility. And I know that someone here said that, well, it's like this everywhere. But I used to tell my kids, you don't do something just because everybody else is doing it. I'm looking for the logic in, me buying you a car. It's like,
Terrific.
it's
Thanks,
my
Sue.
money, but I don't own it. I mean, what I own, that I take responsibility for. So to cut to the chase, who owns from the sidewalk out?
Chris, you got this?
You're thinking of ownership as like you own a pen, you own something else. What they have is a right of way for use of the area. And a right of way is going to be a little bit different than an ownership issue.
You own to the curb.
Pardon me?
You own to the curb,
Village has a right of
but
way.
they have a right of way to use up to a certain point. Usually from the center line it runs from the center line of the street.
And it's a different range based on who owns a street. So a state street has a different
Right.
number of feet from the center of the road, and a county road is different, and a village road is different
Okay.
on how many feet in from the center line of the road, that the right of way is considered.
So that's where the,
It's a right of use versus an ownership concept.
Well, the public has the right of use to walk on the sidewalk.
Correct.
Village has the right of way to do things for utilities and things of that nature.
Yeah,
But you own up to the curb, it's just like an easement, like If
Right.
for years, you bought a property and for years, there was a little cut through that everybody used to go somewhere. And now all of a sudden you buy it and you put a fence there and you say, nobody's gonna do it. Your neighbor says, 100 years we've been doing that. They go to court. The judge says, sorry, it's been established. You bought it like that. It's an easement. It's a right of way. Similar sort of situation. The public has the right to walk on the sidewalk.
You can't build a garage over your sidewalk.
Things.
No,
Yeah.
true.
You
I
own
mean,
it, but you can't necessarily use that much of it any way you want.
okay, even like the apron in my driveway. I mean, that's pretty much me, but so I own that or that's the right of way.
The right of way will go the entire length of the street from the center line of the road all the way over. So it will be your apron. It will be where this up to the sidewalk area, all of that. It is a right to use. But you own it, just like you own your driveway.
So on my survey, is that to say that it's the back of my property to the sidewalk or all the way to the curb?
To the
Just-
curb.
To the curb.
If you check your survey, they'll all be the same in terms of going.
Okay.
that's what it
Yeah.
goes to.
And
So
that
that's
is,
what-
It will show the public right of way on your survey.
okay,
Just like if there was an easement that was filed. Allowing, there may be drainage easements, things like that that exist between properties.
yeah, I think there's one right on Glebe next door.
Right, that means you still own the property. But someone else has the right to use that portion for whatever purpose, whether it's for a drainage easement or whatever.
Okay,
Well, not, in any event, it doesn't change the responsibility.
okay, because I was caught in, as you might expect, between what I own and what I don't. And it was said to me, I've been there 40 years, but you know, you own to the curb. No, I think I was told the village owns from the sidewalk out, but I couldn't even tell you who told me. And it became such a non-issue. And at this moment, it's a non-issue for me too. But, you know, these individuals raise a good point because, you know, in a logical sense, as a citizen, you would think, why are you asking me to pay for something that's not mine? You know, but that's an accurate depiction, I guess, of how it's written in the law and how it works. So I appreciate the clarification.
It's clear in any, in any village, town, whatever, that's the way it is.
Okay, thank you.
There was one time, there was a number, maybe back, I don't know, maybe you can help remember, but 25 years ago, they replaced the sidewalks in my street on Fillmore. And I believe I had to pay 50% the cost and the village paid the other 50%. They replaced all the sidewalks down our street. You remember that? Am I correct in that or am I just hallucinating?
That was a federal grant.
So that was a grant that did it. I paid half and they paid, it was like 25 years ago.
That was midnight. Was a federal
Yeah.
grant.
And they did a lot of sidewalks in town on that grant. But so that was one-time deal. So that was part of the deal. Okay.
Yeah, they did grants and when there's a long area, just land that was empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, along the main streets and they put sidewalks all the way in.
They did
Probably
a great
nobody's
job
using
because
it.
those sidewalks did not crack. I mean, they're still great.
All right. There'll be second speakers and communications at the end of the meeting in case you think of something or you want to add to your thoughts. Moving on to public hearings, can I get a motion to open a public hearing to consider a local law to partially rezone 70 Church Street for the Muse Jar applicant Vanessa Frost at 7:43 PM?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second. Second by Marcia. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. The public hearing is open. Would the applicant like to say anything?
Hello, my name is Bill Maruza. I'm the owner of the property at 70 Church Street, which is it's a unicorn type of property in that it was previously the original site for Fisher Price. It covers a block from Church Street all the way across to Pine Street, and there's an entrance from both sides, from Church Street and Pine Street. The Church Street side is very much a residential look. The accessory building that faces Pine Street is much more commercial qualities to it. And that was like the manufacturing site for toys when Fisher Price started out. So I'm looking to repurpose that building into something more similar to what it was its original intent. It's right now it is it looks different than any other property that's there. I've stabilized it. And I really would love to breathe some life into this culturally significant structure that means so much to the village. And the impetus for me moving forward with this whole thought is with Vanessa Frost and her company, the Muse Jar, her business is presently looking for a new home. And her and I collaborated with this idea, which we're sharing with you now. And they'll have you describe the business.
I'm Vanessa. I own Muse Jar, which is currently on 17 Elm Street. And it is up for sale, the building. So it's actually a two-part building. 17, which is the garage, which is where our retail space is in. And then 21 is where we have the Muse Loft, which a lot of you may or may not know that we have. I started renting that accessory additional space probably 2 years ago to expand the business from a class standpoint. So Muse Jar, we have art supplies and retail in the garage, and then we teach a ton of private art lessons, a lot of classes. We do kids' birthday parties. So I was looking to expand the space, and at the time that the Muse Loft became available, so the Martins rented that to me, and it's been a wonderful addition to what we have right now. I also do a lot of other things in that space just because it lends itself to that. So moving forward, that will not be part of that. Just to make that clear, I'll be not bringing bridal, anything baby shower related, because we do events like that right now just because the space lends itself to it, but I will not be bringing that. I have no desire to bring anything like that towards the next space. But anyways, so we have this big space that we're looking in. So currently the two buildings are for sale. And it's not something that I am able to purchase moving forward. So I'm kind of stuck in this position where I have nowhere to go at the moment, or when that time comes, I'll have nowhere to go. And we're working right now with roughly 5,000 square feet, which is a lot. We do a lot of lessons, and it's a lot of one-on-one lessons. A lot of my teachers are here tonight. So it's a lot of things happening all at the same time. So the space is unique where we need private rooms where people can occupy the space all at the same time. And so build space is roughly that square footage, which is wonderful. And it has it has the ability to make classrooms and also have a retail space. So I guess what I'm asking is if I could get permission to rezone commercial so I can move Muse Jar from Elm Street to Pine Street. And just continue on and have, my biggest thing is staying in the village. I would say majority of my students are kids. A lot of them bike, a lot of them walk to us. So to stay in the village and have it accessible for families and be able to walk there. The entrance on Pine Street has a sidewalk, which is really wonderful, and it has parking lot, which is not something that I can say that we really have at the moment. Elm Street is the Wild West. I joke that's like Wild West. It's busy, and so it would be amazing to have a space where you can pull in and park and have safety, have bike racks, have a place for kids and families to safely kind of enter and be at the business. And that's something that the space would have, which is really wonderful. And then it's also big enough to grow and kind of side step over and not have to rebuild or start fresh or do any of that sort of thing, kind of continue on, which would be really amazing. What else? Oh, that was the other thing is since I found out that the Martins put the property on or for sale, I have been on the hunt for somewhere else I can go. Purchasing, I wish that I could just purchase whatever building that I want, but unfortunately that's not the case. And there are very few, if at the present, I checked the other day, there's 3 available commercial spaces available for rent. And none of them meet the requirements that I would need to kind of continue my business as it is without the event space, just to continue with classes and lessons and the retail space. So Bill and I joke that we call it a unicorn building in the village because it so uniquely matches what we currently have and what we would need. And there's very few, if not any other spaces like that in the village. And it's Fisher Price, so it'd be a cool full circle moment. So
good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've seen is obviously, you're very highly regarded in the community. We've gotten dozens of emails from a lot of people I'm friends with, including people who live right around that property that I know personally. And what's kind of nice is that you're not a new business that nobody knows anything about coming in and we're like, how's this going to affect the neighborhood? And we already know your business model. You don't see any big drastic changes besides not doing bridal showers. I mean,
No, and
yeah.
that's for the better.
You're not gonna be doing, rap classes or anything,
Yeah.
big speakers or anything different than what you're already
No.
kind of doing now.
No,
Right.
we're just gonna keep doing, and honestly, and I understand that traffic is a big issue. I had a lot of neighbors who I talked to who are all, who are positively supporting us, but just saying, what about traffic coming in and out? And honestly, our classes, we probably max out at maybe 15 people per class. Almost always people come with someone else and they walk or bike or carpool. I'm not saying that's always, obviously, but we don't have a lot of cars coming in for one time. During the day, a lot of walkers, you know what I mean? So in terms of high traffic, there will not be a ton. And I know we do a lot of kids' birthday parties. A lot of kids' birthday parties, but it's drop off. So, yeah, and that's usually in our hours, we Saturdays 10 to 4, Sundays 10 to 4. We never do anything late night. Our latest class probably goes till 8 p.m. So in terms of like late events, loud, there's none of that, it's like a daytime, family friendly establishment.
So you still will continue with kids' birthday parties?
And yes, but again, we recommend 15 to be the max for obvious reasons. Any more than 15, small children is a lot.
I mean, we tried to address this in a site plan. This was approved. So is the plan then to have the entrance come in from Pine Street as compared to coming in from Church?
Correct. That is, that would be,
So
yes,
traffic flow would be that way.
yes, traffic flow would be on Pine. We don't want to disrupt the Church Street residential feel at all. And there are residents on that side, so they would be unaffected by that. So
Yeah, it doesn't go, you can't drive all the way across.
no,
right?
no, it's just a build, yeah,
But just thinking about current residents.
correct, yep, yeah. Yeah, you want
Good evening. My name is Dave Sutton from Sutton Architecture. I've been commissioned by Mr. Maruza to investigate the possibilities of purposing this building for Vanessa's business. Couple of key points in the rezone. As Mr. Maruza had indicated, it is a unique property. We're not looking to take a residential property in terms of its building, its form, its character, and convert it into a business. The building is already there. They're not planning on any changes to the outward size, footprint, overall structure of the building that currently exists. The main purpose of this rezone is to enable the property to be utilized. Right now, in our opinion, it's being underutilized and non-contributing to the neighborhood in any way. And we want to bring it to life and contribute it in a positive way. We're going to address and by design try to factor in any negative impacts, work with any neighboring properties. Also know that we have to probably go in front of the planning board and other commissions to make sure that what we do to the outside of this building, parking, ingress, egress, are all approved through the appropriate agencies and committees, meaning planning board and any other building department regulations. So the big plus of this is it is a pedestrian friendly business that we're looking to put in here. And once again, no major changes to the outside other than bringing an existing building to life. Important note that also in our research is in reviewing your comprehensive plan, this property is actually earmarked to be a commercial component in what they think they call the Main Street North Hamlet, or I'm not sure I quoted that correctly, but it actually is identified as a property to be a commercial use. And that comprehensive plan goes into at length the benefits that this property should contribute to the neighborhood, not only commercial neighborhood, but residential neighborhood. And allowing this rezone will enable us to do just that. So we are looking to bring the building back to life by this rezone and enable Vanessa's business, which we feel is an ideal business for the setting. You're not buying into an unknown project, a possible development. We're looking about repurposing an existing building to a known entity in your village and a successful one, I might add. So that being said, I can answer any questions regarding the technical, but they're much better equipped to answer questions regarding the business and nature of use.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Does the board have any questions for the applicants? Well, we have, oh, sorry, Liz.
Just a point of clarification. So if there are no exterior changes on the building, a site plan wouldn't be required. If they're making exterior changes, then it absolutely would. But this building, regardless of the business that goes in there, if you do change the zoning to LCR, any business that goes in there has to have a special use permit application and review process. So at a minimum, any business in this building in the future will have that, and then a site plan will be required for exterior changes.
So LCR, that's light commercial residential, correct? Limited, okay. Limit, and what's the limits in the limited?
Art, music, photo studio, shops, retail, and funeral homes and professional offices. Now they're limited to the building size of 2,500 square feet. Allowable uses in that zoning district in a building footprint larger than 2,500 are required to have a special use permit.
So even in future reference, you move on or close up. Only professional building, no restaurant, no.
Correct.
Okay. Let's.
We still have a lot of say in what goes in there. And that was my concern is,
Yeah.
love the idea of your business going in there, you and Bill, it's a great setup. What happens in 15 years when you move to Florida and somebody else is going in there and they want to put a chemical factory in there or something?
Sure.
So that's good. Thanks, Liz, for
Yeah.
for shining some light on that.
That was my thing too, like just, putting an event space in a residential area was concerning, but a 15 kid birthday party is not, a wedding. So.
And I understand. But that would be different thing for not to have block like that.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm trying to part of it. Moving on and talking more about that.
Sure. And that's again, something that's not necessarily you, but people in the future, what are we signing the village up for? So.
Anyone else on the board have any questions for the applicants? Anyone from the public want to speak on this topic?
Hello again, I'm Colleen Scott, 58 Pine Street. I did submit a letter. I'll just go over this as briefly as I can be, as you guys have been very tolerant tonight. Our first concern is residents, and Pine Street is a residential neighborhood. It's not a commercial neighborhood. There are businesses not too far from us, but this entire lot that's being singled out is surrounded by single family units. Which does bring up the question of whether or not it is spot zoning. Spot zoning can be described as singling out a small parcel of land for use classification, totally different from that of the surrounding area for the benefit of the owner of said property to the detriment of others. While I do understand, and I do want to say, first of all, I have no ill will toward Vanessa or her business. I'm not here to tear her business down. I have no issue with it whatsoever. I do have an issue with rezoning a parcel of a residential neighborhood for commercial use. We are not maxed out in the village on business property. There are properties available. There's a building next to Charlie's, there's the back end of Mighty Taco, there's things that maybe don't fit the character of the current business, but we are not maxed out and we do not need to start creeping into residential neighborhoods to create more business space. The detriment at the planning board meeting, there was a lot of emphasis paid to the benefit of the business, but not much emphasis paid to the detriment of the neighborhood. We've recently invested quite a bit of money in the front of our house to put a nice porch where we sit and we eat and we relax. And this directly faces the parcel that would be now have all the vegetation removed from it to open up the blind driveway, presumably security lighting, and to see the facade, which may or may not look like it does today, but it's not going to be looking at another stately home on Pine Street. It will be looking at a business. What happens next? Once you rezone this, it's going to stay that way. The zoning maps were only adopted in 2019, most recently, and there was no need to rezone at this time, even though I mean, I would argue if this property is going to be rezoned, it should be rezoned as a whole because it's not in any way currently being used as a single family residential. So maybe that's an issue that needed to be addressed when the maps were redone, but it wasn't. What precedence does this set? How do you then argue against someone else wanting to turn their property into a business? Maybe I want to turn my property into a business now. How do you say no to the next property that wants to do this? I think that there needs to be, like I said, there's quite a bit of value placed on the businesses in the village, but you should also place a value on the citizens that live in the village. They are your volunteer firemen. They are your volunteers with local organizations, be it disabled. They are your room moms, and they deserve to be recognized as well. I think that's basically all I wanted to say about that. I just feel that this is unnecessary. It's unwarranted. It is for the benefit of one to the possible detriment of many. Again, it's not anything against this particular business or this business owner, but it sets a bad precedence. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Chris and Bob, what does it do precedent wise? If we
Well,
approve this?
The thing is, with any of these, you look at the individual property. Doing it once does not force you to do it every other time. Because you'll have different factual situations based on the types of buildings that are there, based on the size of property, based on how close it is to other areas. There are a lot of factors that go into it. So it's not a simple, well, you do it once and you have to do it for the rest of your life. It doesn't operate that way.
Without a question, it's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
So it doesn't paint us into a corner where we have to
No.
approve in the future. And this is a historically commercial building, but I get what she's saying about, you know, she's got to look at it all day, right? That said, I feel like the property owner could cut down the vegetation right now anyway. And put the, you know what I mean? It's this being the business or not, doesn't control it, kind of like the trees on Walnut. You know, that property owner could have gone in and just cut those trees down. We asked him, we said we'd like him to save. So maybe we can work with you guys as far as how the front looks and how it's going to affect, you know, the neighbors who have to look at it.
Just
No,
address us,
Yeah,
please.
up there.
Just bring it up.
Yeah,
The nature of the business is not, you know, we, in the planning meeting, we talked about Dollar General. I mean, these jars would go away fluorescent and bright at night. And I mean, if anything, the extent of our lighting at night are bistro lights, you know what I mean? Which a lot of people have in their backyard. So I would say that that's not going to be something out of the ordinary in a residential or village setting at all anyways. And the vegetation, I mean, if anything, will just make it look really nice and it will be better to look at. I mean, you've all seen my business now and it's not hideous, I would say. I mean, I paint it, I do murals. I mean, I've already painted the side of Bill's building with sunflowers. It's actually already been painted by me a few years ago. So I would say that I'd be happy to work, well, obviously we'll work with you guys in terms of what is allowed and what's not allowed and what you prefer. And if you have say what you want to look at, I could maybe work with you in that department. But I guess I just, in the nature of Muse Jar, while yes, maybe, you know, I could go into behind the Mighty Taco in the middle of a very, very busy plaza. Is that family friendly? No. Is it safe for kid to ride their bike? No. You know, is it lend itself to how my business is ran and or projected? No, you know, I mean, yes, you could plot me in any space, but it will not be the same.
Okay, we, you know, I think we
You get
know,
that.
yeah, we know that, and we can move on.
Yeah, but
I am very respectful to some of the concerns that have been raised here, and I'm sure there are others that haven't even been brought up, which in part is why we had an architect, Mr. Sutton, join us so he could hear the discussion, and he's taking careful notes about what the specific concerns are. I'm sure whatever that next phase in this process, we could demonstrate through his work in the drawing that we're addressing those issues, and I think that we could alleviate hopefully all of those concerns. You know, we want to be a good neighbor like we have been, and really want this to be a win-win for everybody involved.
Well, the board's gonna do his due diligence. well, hopefully they'll have impact from your neighbors and that you do that, and we'll look at that. Thank you. Can move on.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Anyone else want to speak on this?
Hi, everybody. I'm Deb Flynn, 841 East Fillmore. The property's right down the street from us. And I love the idea of repurposing buildings that would otherwise sit idle in our village for the purpose of creating a tapestry of unique businesses surrounded by residences. Take a look around East Aurora. Look at where the Roycroft is located. Look at the Roycroft campus. It's in a residential area. Look at the middle school. Look at 42 North. Look at where Blue Eyed Baker's going. Look at our rink. That's what's unique about East Aurora, and it's what makes us special. I'm not afraid to have a business like Vanessa's at the corner because I think it adds value to our neighborhood. It adds value to our family life, and that's why we live here. So I am a strong supporter living right down the street of this. And I think we will all be thrilled when we see this business because I think it's going to be an improvement from the property that exists today.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on this?
I am Aaron Dems, 740 Fillmore. My property actually touches right up to your property. Real quick, all I want to say is, and I think you guys have cleared this up, but I have no issue with Vanessa's business. My concern is 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what that can become when you move to Florida and it's already zoned for a different business. So I just want to make sure the board does their due diligence to make sure that something like that, I think you had already covered in the limited use or whatever it was, special use. Just want to make sure that that is all covered and make sure that we can't get a bar or something, an axe throwing business. Throwing axes at the property.
Sure.
So, other than that.
Just don't go to Florida, Vanessa.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to get across.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
There's somebody.
Is there a design? Do you have a current design for the facade of the building? Like,
There is
I'm sorry.
if you're looking at it, there's a garage on the right. I would like to actually. The garage is up there, there's on the side, and then, the main room, and then the majority of the building is essentially where we use. And then there's little buildings. Shape of it needs to be compartmented off.
And regarding the opening up to the street, are you content with it's set back, you drive by, you hardly know there's a commercial thing there, and I think that's part of the point that some of the neighbors are referring to. And to lose that and open that up is gonna lose the feel of that area. Are you guys looking to chop the vegetation, open it up, and then put views on the building so people can see it from the street and find you and all that? Or, that is it gonna become more commercial feeling, or is it, that's kind of a thought I was running through my head too.
No, I think part of the feel that I enjoy about it is it's like, you can kind of enjoy the green space and it's right there. And you can come to the classes, you can go outside, classes. No, I would like to keep it how it is, kind of keep it like campus. And I won't lie, I mean, it's colorful. I mean, there's a chance the building is gonna probably pop a little through the tree, just because I can't contain myself, but it's not going to be fluorescent, it's not gonna be, and I feel like I've been almost going to be established for 10 years. So I feel like I'm kind of at the point where people won't want to speak. Yeah.
Right. Well, that was I didn't know if you were looking to aim this walk-in type business, because look, here's me, oh wow, what's that? Or is it my current people are gonna find me?
I realize moving on. There's not walking traffic right now, and that's fine. I'm okay kind of stepping that will be forward. But our business is going in another direction, tons of education based stuff. So I'm okay with that.
All right. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. Hello, I'm Mary, Master Simone Casey, You guys might remember me. I was here a year ago. Anyway, I'm here to.
What's your address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, 831 East Fillmore Avenue. So I am a neighbor. I know Colleen, I know Deb Flynn, and I can see everyone's point. I can see Colleen's point because she does have a beautiful porch and they did put a lot of money into her porch. It's gorgeous. And I work hard on my property as well, as do the Flynns. But Vanessa's amazing, and creative people can solve lots of problems. That's what we are. We're problem solvers, and I'm really pleased to see that an architect is here and they're going to be thinking about this. I agree, as long as there isn't a long-term chemical plant going in, as you might have jokingly said, none of us would want that even around the corner or on East Fillmore. But I highly recommend that you guys approve this because the creative people in this area are astounding. I don't even think folks here realize how many talented people reside in this village. And we need more young people coming up and learning, and Vanessa's doing that. So I highly, as a resident and a neighbor, I highly recommend you say yes. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
We got one more, then we'll put you in there. Thank you. He was had his hand up first.
Is there a limit? On this building, I was just will it be referred to Historic Preservation Commission? Because if it is something connected to Fisher Price, it might be a valid thing to refer to Historic Preservation, and it might qualify for some tax credits if there's historic significance to the property. All the many of the other concerns that I was listening to regarding signage, you can put a restriction on that. If you do approve it, you can put a restriction on the plan of signage, of greenery around it, if it's a concern of the neighbors. That can all be addressed if you approve the site plan. So.
But there's no site plan required if they're not doing a change to the building.
Well, but that's just the point with the historic preservation too. They could be working, if it's a historically significant building, it should be reviewed, in my opinion, to at least address it with the owners for the potential of the building to be designated. But you can't always put in a restriction within the site plan. That's it. You'll never hear from me again.
Well, that's the end.
For the next 5 minutes.
Could somebody shut that door? Yes.
Hi, my name is Tammy Self. I don't live in the village. I'm one of the instructors at Muse-Jar. I own Bluebird Studio. Oh, sure, 21 Elm. So I reside outside the village, but I teach regularly through Vanessa, through Muse-Jar, and bear with me, I do not speak in public unless I'm speaking to small children or people that have paid for me to pontificate at will. But Vanessa asked us to speak tonight if that's something that we can contribute. And I have a studio space in 21 Elm, and I have since August of 2018. I moved into that space after Vanessa very graciously took me on as an instructor in 2017. And that environment has been my creative home for several years. And I've watched all of the various stages of changes come through, and I've watched very closely Vanessa's impact on the community and the impact that Muse-Jar has on the community that surrounds it, geographically, as also from an artistic standpoint. She beautifies everything she touches. The buildings that we currently occupy, as you all know, probably from just driving down Elm, have changed over a period of years. And truly, the most beautiful parts of those places, the things that redeem them, are because of Vanessa Frost. So if there's any concern about what she brings to the neighborhood being something that could work to detriment or to de-beautify, I would encourage you to look carefully at what she's done already. And she's very willing to work with whatever she has to do in order to make it amendable to everyone. Also, on another note, I, at this point, mostly teach children's workshops. I have taught almost 50 children so far this summer in context with Muse Jar and through the town of Aurora Rec because of the program that we run through Knox. So I can speak to just how significant the impact of this business is to the youth in this community, as well as to adults who need arts enrichment, who need access to arts, especially where we find ourselves now post-pandemic. And Muse Jar provides that. So I think it's crucial that it remains in the village. It needs to be walkable. It needs to be accessible to families with small children. And this location really is the only place that provides that for this community. And in a context that it can still function as it needs to and still provide the value to the community that the community needs from it. So it's a perfect combination. I also, on another note, I attended a conference in February where there was a lecture made about the Roycroft and the arts and crafts movement. And in that lecture, it was brought up that this particular building, by coincidence, I'm not sure if you even know this, was in fact part of the residence or connected in some capacity to one of the original artisans that were working on the Roycroft campus during Hubbard's time. So the fact that this building was originally an arts building, it has connections to Fisher-Price, which is the heart and soul of the arts, commercial arts in this community, and that it is lying unused and unmaxed, in at a deficit, really. And the thought that she could come in and revitalize this and bring arts back to that area is truly something that I think we should definitely give weight to. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure.
I also had questions about the history. This building does appear on the reconnaissance survey for historic structures. I believe that survey was generated by the desire to tear down some other buildings at the other end of town. And I don't know if it being listed on that requires a certain amount of oversight by a historic review committee. There's been some talk about whether or not you can change the exterior of the building. Obviously, that's of special concern to me. But mostly what I want to say is this has been a great series of testimonies for Muse Jar. And again, I have nothing against Muse Jar, but I don't think we're here for a special use permit. We're here to talk about the rezoning of part of 70 Church, which has long beyond Muse Jar repercussions. So I would like to remind everybody that that's the task at hand. It's not a referendum on Muse Jar. It is a discussion of rezoning property in a residential neighborhood. And that needs to be looked at beyond, that yes, this is a great business. It, has lots of great attributes, but that's not the only thing at hand here. This is taking a piece of property and opening up to business. I do have a question, if I could ask you, sir. Does this mean that there will no longer be lift gate service coming once a week with an 18-wheeler out in front of the house parked on Pine Street? Is that being displaced? There's deliveries that come to that property on a weekly basis. I assume it's for the woodworking facility that's there. I mean, so does that mean that what's happening there will no longer be happening and Muse Jar will be taken up?
I'm unaware.
I can show you the picture of the lift gate truck that comes once a week. So I just would ask you again to look at the task at hand, which is, should this property be rezoned? Is it because there's a need? Is it for the need of one versus the neighborhood? And again, this has nothing to do with us, whether or not Muse Jar as a business should exist. It has everything to do with rezoning the property. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on this? All right.
Bill, how long have you owned it?
6.5 years.
What's it being used as now?
The side on it faces Church Street is residential. It's an existing non-conforming adult. And then this separate building that we're discussing right now faces Pine Street. It's presently used for storage. And there is a small woodworking shop that I participate in, and I have a friend that is there more often than I am. It shouldn't involve like deliveries and things. Maybe it'd be a one-off kind of a thing, but certainly not on a weekly basis.
Gotcha.
All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 8:19?
So move.
Moved by Steve, second. Second by Marcia, for the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion to open a public hearing to consider a special use permit application for 227 Main Street for the Poked Oak for a permanent roof over the patio at 8:20 PM?
So move.
Moved by Steve, second.
Second.
Second by, was that Molly? That was Marcia. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. The public hearing is open. Is the applicant here, and would the applicant like to speak? Come on up.
Hey,
Hi, Jim.
we just want to put a roof over the patio.
You
So
gotta put your name and,
I'm sorry.
name and
sorry.
address.
James Vaughn, 6 Grove Road.
Thank you.
So we hope that you guys will approve it. It will look a lot nicer than the winter tent that's up there currently that we use, and having to switch to the summer one.
Now you put a roof, open air, you're gonna put,
Yeah.
is it gonna be like a summer room, so you can use it in the fall and that, or no? Well,
Oh, it has like the sides that roll down, like
Oh.
currently,
okay,
so they're just gonna attach those.
gotcha.
Anybody else have anything for Jim?
Same footprint that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like an improvement.
Yeah. I'm down. All right, thanks, Jim.
I can take it.
Would anybody like to speak publicly regarding the Poked Yokes application for a permanent roof over their patio? All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 8:21 PM?
So move.
Moved by Steve, second. Second by Marcia, for the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion to open a public hearing to consider a local law to amend village code to section 249-28? No parking at 8:22 PM.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second by Steve, for the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Public hearing is open. Kathy?
This is something that came up, Maureen had put in for our code update with General Code Publishers, and they review mountains of documentation for everything that's been adopted. This was actually approved by the board previously, but everything that gets considered and approved to change our code must be done by local law, and this was not done by local law, it was done by resolution, so a minor technical matter. But in order to make it be in the code as was intended previously, and if this board agrees, you would need to properly adopt a local law now in order to have it be put in our code in the proper manner.
Thank you. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this?
My name is Mary McGrath. I live at 65 Hamlin Avenue. I'm assuming this is the East Film or West Fillmore, no parking on West Fillmore from Hamlin to Parkdale. Oh, okay. Is that okay for me to talk now or? Okay. I live on the corner of Hamlin and West Fillmore. 65 Hamlin Avenue. So there will be no parking on that street at all.
It's in the code, the street is West Fillmore as discussed. It's on the south side. And the location on West Fillmore is from Hamlin Avenue to the west end of the street.
And so right now there's no parking on the north side. So there will be no parking at all on that street.
Right, that was what was intended some time ago to have gone into the code. So it's being represented at this time.
Can I ask why there will be no parking on that street? Would the neighbors have been notified that this was going to happen? I have people who visit me and that's where they park. I just don't understand why there would be no parking at all on that street.
When was this originally?
There were notices.
Oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't make a deal, that is advertising.
That's where I saw it in the advertiser.
So there's gonna be no parking at all in that one block. Is that?
That's the block that's from Hamlin to Parkdale, right?
Yes, correct.
To the school.
Yes.
Is that why you don't want cars on that? Because of buses and things coming
Buses don't
around?
come down that
Buses
street.
go out the other
They come
side.
down
Right.
Hamlin.
Yeah, so then why would we want no parking on both sides?
When there are village events, people park there, 1 block from Main Street.
Are there signs there now? No
There's a
parking?
sign on the north side, not on the south side.
Can we get the minutes for the meeting from 2018 to find out why that decision was made?
I don't recall that being the case. We were moving it because of the water.
Mhm.
We moved it from one side to the other when that street was reconstructed. It was never, I don't,
Both sides.
both sides.
But Center Street is both sides.
Correct. Center Street is both sides.
Because right now there's no parking on the west side, and this will add no parking on the east side.
So
Just for the fire. For 3 months.
Just to,
It's from Main to Oakwood.
It didn't go all the way to Oakwood. It went from Main Street to just past the church. Because the fire department, and they'll back me up on this.
I remember that.
Because of the trucks coming in and out of the park.
They wanted to be able to swing around, and when there was cars there, they couldn't. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember why this one was.
that's part of this as well, or no?
Yeah. I believe it is, they're.
Yeah, it's center in West Fillmore, yeah.
But again. I don't recall off the top of my head. Which side we put the parking on Fillmore. Right, and we moved it to the other side because of the fire hydrants and parking. Then the other side.
So
Like
when
we did
re-
on Oakwood across from Wally's.
So why don't we fix this so that?
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
parking on
Why
one
don't- yeah,
side-
maybe we
Right.
table it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Appreciate
table
it.
it, and take a deeper dive and find out
Thank
exactly.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, which side has more spaces and all that.
Nicely done.
Citizens making it.
So unless somebody else wants to speak on this. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 8:27
So
PM?
move.
Should we leave the public hearing open?
Leave it open. Leave the public hearing open.
Yeah, you leave the public hearing open if you're going to do any other changes to the local law. That way you don't have to go through this again.
Okay. All right,
I
so we'll
like
just
that.
leave it open. And we'll just move on to official consideration.
Parts to this. Could we address the Center Street one, or do you want to keep it?
It's all one
I
lump.
think-
It's all one lump.
You
Yeah,
probably
it is.
wanna,
I don't think there's any urgency for either one of them, so.
And the parking signs are there and it's place cabinet. So the issue is the technicality of how they.
But there's not no parking signs on both sides of the street now.
No, just on one side I want somewhere and just the section on the east side of Center from Main past the church. Maybe at one residence.
Okay. All right, so we'll put a pin in that and move on to official considerations. Can I get a motion to make a determination under the State Environmental Quality Review Act seeker for a local law to partially rezone 70 Church Street for the Muse Jar applicant Vanessa Frost?
I'll make a neg deck for seeker.
Okay. Neg deck motion by Kristen, second by Marcia. Further discussion. Seeker committee looked at this and decided,
No environmental.
I guess it decided to make a recommendation for a neg deck, right? All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved? We get a motion to approve a local law to partially rezone 70 Church Street for the Muse Jar applicant Vanessa Frost. Moved by Marcia, second by Grace. Further discussion. My concern,
yeah.
I really am against spot zoning. This one is such a unique setup where you have this historically commercial building that's one residence away from the rest of the commercial zone.
Right.
I agree with the concerned resident about not making it about Muse Jar and about this business. I know when there was a business that wanted to move down North Willow. And we were concerned that they were moving into the residential area and they were that was part of that creep, that commercial creep that could happen. And so we put a restriction on it. They can only go 15 feet in or something.
Okay, so it's the building really, if they leave the greenery, the landscaping. And the facade doesn't change much. Except you're gonna add colors and.
No, our code does not allow like signs out by the street, does it? It does.
Yeah, it does.
Sure it does, yeah.
Yeah.
See, now you start putting signs out, that does kind of kill that
Well, that
resident.
changes a bit. with the sign.
100%, yeah.
We
But-
can condition anything. You
we
can
can
make
condition
Well, I get it, I'm
a
just,
Smaller
yeah,
sign,
yeah.
no lighting.
But I mean, is
Sign.
the appearance going to look different? No. Is it gonna be a loud business? Is it gonna be a lot of noise and commotion? No, because
no,
it's
now
essentially a
you,
school.
now you're thinking immediate as opposed to the long-term thing.
Well, I'm thinking
Isn't it
immediate,
limited
but
commercial?
But somebody else wants to go in when she's in Florida,
So then
retired, then.
I know it. Aren't you glad everybody picked where you're going then?
I'm deciding for you. Enjoy it. You go play pickleball down there. So anyhow, when the next occupant comes in, they would have to come in anyways.
And
and get a-
comply with
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
is set
So that
forth.
changes. Is it going to be a loud business? I don't
You know,
think
I
so,
get
but will there be traffic? Will there be cars coming and going? Because you have a retail establishment in there, you have lessons ongoing hourly, people in, people out. Is that? Yeah, that's a change. And then I have to ask myself, do I want to live next to a business like that? I don't think I have a problem with it. I live behind a doctor's office. But it's zoned for that. It's commercially zoned. I live in a residential
Mhm.
area. I have cars coming and going and headlights and,
Right.
I mean, does it change the character of the neighborhood that much? That's the question.
Potentially could, it depends how much chop and signs and things and clearing and paving and I guess, I don't know. That's, because as I said earlier, when you drive by that, you barely know it's there.
Right.
Now, as a business, I don't know if you want to be known as barely there. But, you know, I get that, right?
Mhm.
I like knowing that regardless of what business goes in there, they have to come before us with a special use permit.
Agreed.
I think that's
Well-
what some of this discussion is. It's like, are we talking about zoning? Are we talking about special? use?
Right.
You know,
Is it a business that will alter the character and the livability of that neighborhood to such an extent that it makes it unattractive for the current residents to live there?
it is so close. What is it? One building away.
One
from-
building away from the
from-
church,
From the church.
2 from 42 north.
42, From Ariba, from.
There's a lot.
But it is
of-
on a
there's
residential
lot of
block.
commotion there already.
It's on a
There's a
residential
lot of,
block.
there's a lot of hoopla and there's a lot of,
Is that where the blue-eyed bikers going to?
yeah.
That's-
well, I grew up with a cement plant there, that was,
Right.
with the clickety clickety in the morning, I could hear it from my bedroom. I had a bowling alley right out down the street. Jackson's, I could smell the cigar smoke in my bedroom window at night when I was drifting off.
Charming.
All right.
But anyhow, I mean, it's not that far off of what's commercial now and what's going on, and Marcia's right about that. You're talking about one residence. It's not gonna produce noxious odors. I don't believe it'll be allowed, normally you're not screaming when you're painting.
It's a new movement.
It's like goat yoga. Screaming painter.
Well, I mean, I think the only real potential issue is traffic. It's more.
Yes.
cars.
The flow, the in, the
And
out.
then there's a parking lot, so that's, something to consider. Other than that, I mean, based on. We're not just really talking about the business. When I see what current business has done to the resurgence of Elm Street, I'd like to think that business could help.
I don't.
Enhance the area, no more. But I do worry about that.
I think Elm needed more enhancing at the time than this
Oh, for
does.
sure. So,
And you did a great job, by the way.
Quick question about the whole special permit side of this. So just to understand it, so if we do rezone this, do they still need a special permit after that or?
Yes,
Okay,
at a minimum.
okay.
because
Yeah,
of the
this is
size
just
of
a
the
zoning
building.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
reading the code, but I want to double check it.
Right, it would be a permitted use if you were to rezone it to limited commercial residential, but because the footprint exceeds 2,500 square feet, it requires a special use permit.
Okay.
So any future use at a minimum would require that. And if any exterior changes happen, then that requires also a site plan approval.
Other than cosmetic.
Other than ADA accessibility is what I'm saying. Exterior changes other than ADA accessibility requires a site plan approval. So if they were going to change the parking lot, or if they were going to put a different lighting out there, or if they wanted to put an addition on in any way, shape or form, all of that requires a site plan.
Paint, awning, things like that.
Not an awning, I would say,
Cosmetics.
not an awning, but a structural change.
So,
Is-
John, Bill, sorry. Um, So currently, the building is, you're using it as a warehouse, so to speak, or what?
Sections of it there. Roughly 2/3 of the building, is being used for storage, mostly my stuff.
Okay, so that'll be all,
That'll,
assuming it's turned over to commercial.
Yeah, because you have like pickup trucks with plows in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stores his trucks there now.
Mhm.
So they're there. And there's vegetation all around, so you can't see it. We tend to maintain as much vegetation as possible. We have to do a little bit of clearing around the front, so that cars can see people coming in and out.
Well,
Once
no.
we made a plan, we'll be able to see that. I think it'll be quite pleasing to everybody.
We're talking about a potential overflow, I mean, that happening inside, and isn't that going to clear out the articles if we never have to have to get.
Yeah, to some degree. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that looks like.
So that LCR would be for the whole property, front to back, from Church to Pine, right?
No,
Just. no.
just for this commercial building to Pine Street.
So have to, even though it's deeded the whole way.
So the
it's still-
property will still legally be one parcel,
get
but it's a
that.
split zone.
The zone
Mhm.
splits on the property.
Correct.
And
The other
It's
thing-
gonna be an island, because Mr. Den's is gonna be still residential.
Right. The thing that the secret committee did discuss is the vision for the village on the comprehensive regional plan that was adopted. And this area, the Uptown Business District, did include this property and then headed west all the way over to Riley and north up towards the current Fisher Price.
Including
So-
those residential house, I mean. that
Correct.
whole-
Correct.
Now, would this include, would we want to, or for any reason, I'm just throwing it out there, spitballing here. Those two corner residential properties, two that are on East Fillmore. And then the whole thing's LCR, but that,
You're saying like the blue house and
well, there's
I
two
don't think
properties,
there's-
on the one on the corner and.
across from the church.
Yeah. I don't think there's any call for that.
I don't know. I'm looking.
I think that's a broader discussion,
Yeah, this,
but I think the application before you is just for this parcel, this part of this parcel.
Liz, can you speak to the historical issues that were brought up? When and where would that fit into the timeline?
So the property has historic significance, as we're all aware. It's mentioned multiple times in the comprehensive regional plan. It is a building that has a long history in the village. And it is included on the list of properties that are eligible for listing in the village. It is not listed. There is no, you absolutely in the review process could recommend the HPC review the proposals, whatever it is, special use and or site plan. But there's not the requirement at this point in time.
But as an owner of a property, is it my right to choose whether I want to do that or not?
It is, absolutely. You are not.
So even
you're
if
not
someone
required to.
says, we're gonna review it, they can still not they can still choose not.
So
to.
when they apply for a
follow.
special use permit, the board could recommend it goes to the HBC for them to weigh in on it, but there's nothing binding.
Correct.
Okay,
But we could take their, whatever their observations are into account when we make our decisions.
Absolutely.
But that also could impact future businesses after Vanessa goes to Colorado.
So a listing,
more
a
alligators.
listing of the building would have a significant impact
On a future.
on a future.
well, and then there's
Property.
limitations on what they can do to the building
Right.
and all that stuff. It opens up a can of worms for them. And opportunity.
All right, any other discussion from the board?
I mean, I don't want to kick it down the road, but does it make sense to have, to vote now or to have them take a look at it
Table it
first?
for another
Have
meeting.
who take a look at it?
The, what we just talked.
The
about.
HBC?
Yeah.
That's when they apply for the special use permit, though.
Oh, okay, so
Sorry,
that would be after tonight.
yeah. Yeah,
Separate
when they,
issue.
when they apply for the special use permit, we could ask the HBC to weigh in on it. Right, which would give them time to do their full evaluation. They come back with whatever their recommendation or thoughts are. We take that into account on our decision.
So we would not vote tonight as well.
That would be for the special use permit. We would,
The zoning's a
we could
different
still vote for
subject.
the zoning change. now.
This evening,
Yeah.
we'd separate them into two.
Yeah, this is for just the rezoning. We're actually approving a local law, so we have to do a roll call vote
Right.
for it, just on the zoning.
Pretty good.
All right, any other discussion? All right, Steve, we'll kick it off.
Oh gee, thanks. I'm gonna go yay.
Steve's and I, Molly.
I'll go aye.
All right, Marcia.
Aye.
Ernie,
Aye.
a little anticlimactic, but Grace.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye. So it's unanimous, the rezoning did pass. Can I get a motion to approve a special use permit for 227 Main Street for the Poke Joke for a permanent roof over the patio?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second.
Second.
Second by Marcia, for the discussion. I think it's a great idea. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Congrats. Determination, can I get a motion to make a determination under secret for,
We're skipping that, aren't we?
Thought you were
skip one?
holding off on- oh, you were-
I haven't read the whole sentence yet. Yeah, the no parking one.
Yeah.
Supposed to read it before you get here.
You can leave.
Really?
You can leave. Well, either one.
You can stay if you're really enjoying this, but
We've only
we
got,
understand. if
we've
you-
only
We don't
got,
take it
we've only
personally.
got another hour, so.
Bill, we would probably leave if we could, so it's okay. See you, buddy.
I'm going with them.
Let's skip E too.
All right, skipping E also.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, going to F. Can I get a motion to approve a temporary use permit for Till Death Tattoos Flash tattoo event and fundraiser at 652 Main Street on August 21st?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second. Second by Marcia. Further discussion? Anybody from Till Death here? You want to come up and, you don't have to, but if you want to shine a little light on it, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Tara White. I'm a co-owner of Till Death Tattoos.
You
We
need,
are-
you need your address, please.
I'm sorry, 652 Main Street is the location of our building and 2171 Center Street is my physical address. I think the vision for our shop has really come a lot from my background in a social work, as a social worker. My fiance and I opened the shop recently in March, and we have decided that we really want to give back to the community, especially in East Aurora and surrounding areas. We've done various events with other nonprofit agencies to help like local foster care youth and things like that. So this flash tattoo fundraiser will benefit a local food pantry, Resurrection Life Food Pantry. They are one of the leading food pantries that provide emergency food assistance to Western New York families, as well as assistance for parents of low income and things like that, getting supplies for children. 75% of our proceeds from the tattoos will go to the food pantry as well as 100% from our basket raffle. We also have our ice cream truck that's going to be at the event selling ice cream. And we're hoping to get a lot of the local community involved and make it a family-friendly event to kind of just show that, you know, I think there's a stigma sometimes associated with tattoo shops. And we want people in the community to know that we are here to give back to the community and not to bring any negative energy to the community.
Nice. That's they're on Union Road, Resurrection Life Church. All right, any other discussion from the board?
Like when people get back. We need that now more than ever.
I love the name Till Death Tattoos.
I like that.
That's great.
It's great.
Let me just double check. It was estimate 100 people. Time of event starts at 11 a.m. You'll have a DJ, right? Oh, okay. You're gonna have a tent set up in the back? What kind of tent? It's a standard canopy tent. Like how big is it? 12 by 12, okay. Not like one of those huge, yeah. Oh.
Any impact, chief, as far as access to for emergencies?
And there'll be an ice cream truck?
75% of the proceeds goes to the charity. Excellent.
Yeah.
The truck has a permit?
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Any other discussion? All right, moved by Steve, second by Marcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve a temporary use permit for the Roycroft campus for their fall festival at 40 South Grove Street, October 1st and 2nd.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second by
Second.
Ernie.
Was that awkward or what? What happened? I jumped the gun. I want to get going.
All right, we're rolling.
Oh, oops.
All right.
I'm out of practice. We didn't have enough. Meeting on.
Further discussions. Anybody from the Roycroft want to speak on this? Oh, you lost your partner in crime.
Ernie already spoke for you.
Yeah. All right.
Oh,
Anybody have any questions for the applicants?
No.
Any really hard questions, technical stuff? No? All right. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Congratulations. We got a motion to approve a temporary use permit for the Buffalo Autism Project Halloween fundraiser on October 22nd from 2 to 8 p.m. So moved. Moved by Steve, second.
Second.
Second by Marcia for the discussion. Are the applicants here? I'm sorry, do you want me to just let them do a quick high level?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Hi, I'm Brian Mueller. I'm treasurer of Buffalo Autism Project. I'm not a resident, so I'm not. Do you need an address or anything? Or
Still needs it.
11 Park Walk, Lancaster, New York.
Brian Moeller?
What's that?
Moeller?
Like the tooth. Yep.
M-O-L-A?
Moeller.
M-O-E? No.
So we're about 5 years in now, Buffalo Autism Project. We're a non-charitable profit or excuse me, a nonprofit charitable organization. We've done this here before. We haven't done it because of COVID in a few years. This will be our first time back in 3 years
Yeah, I
doing
remember
it.
this.
Yeah, so all the money that comes from this goes directly to the events we've run so far this year. We've had a resource fair where we rented out the field house for the Buffalo Bills, had 25 vendors come in who provide resource to the autism community. We had about 400 attendees. We rented out Kelkenberg Farms about a month ago now. We had 200 people come through there. We rented out the whole farm for the day, provided meals to all the families directly impacted by autism. plenty of kids on the spectrum there as well. And we have one more event coming up this year, which will be running Explore More at the new downtown location. We do a sensory friendly trick or treat there. Again, all the money we raise from this goes to these events. There's 4 of us on the board who run this. Nobody receives any money from this. All the money that comes in goes right back to the organization.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Sorry, I do have a question. So are you charging admission or how are you going to get,
Essentially, it's $15 to buy a ticket. We have all the bars buy in and say, hey, if you have a wristband on, we'll give you happy hour pricing for the duration of the event. All the bars are taking care of all that. We have nothing to do with the alcohol, food, anything like that. We're just selling admission tickets and we're giving out wristbands at the door, which I believe is pegged to be at Angelina's right now. So that's where everybody will come to register, get their wristbands and then go from there.
Oh, they're all going on their own, or is it a bus thing?
We do have buses that will be running.
Shane, you want to weigh in on this? Your thoughts?
It's been, like I said, it's been 3 years. COVID happened.
You have a bus.
We had one bus running last time.
Is it like a loop? You just.
It's a loop. They just
keep
run
going
around,
up
people
and
get on
down,
the
and
bus,
Where they park.
they take them
just-
down to another part of the strip and drop them off there.
School bus or?
School bus, yes,
And they have to have a wristband to get on the bus?
yes.
My only concern would be on a Saturday, if it's a full bus continuing to drop off cars on Main Street, it's gonna cause all sorts of congestion. I probably would like some sort of idea, a little more information on it to, maybe we could block off some parking so the bus could pull over into a parking lane to let people on and off.
Yeah, I'm open for anything, that you would suggest.
Yeah.
Will do. Thank you.
Is that something we should make like a condition of or something that you two can work out? Make it a condition.
Yeah. Just make it a condition.
He's gonna arrange with.
Make Shane happy.
So what about security?
That's up to the bars.
Up to the bars. We give them their wristband and they go to the bars. We have somebody sitting on the bus and anybody who would cause an issue would not be allowed back on the bus.
Well, it's only from 2 to 8.
Yeah.
p.m.
That's what I
It's
thought
not-
too.
In the past, we have.
You know, that's not a, whatever, it's.
Does the bus end at 8?
Yes, the bus is complete. The bus is done at 8. It's a hard stop.
Okay.
Assumptions.
Happy hour prices end at 8 too?
Correct. Happy hour bus, happy hour prices. That's all it is. Nobody's getting anything for free or anything like that.
So what was the condition exactly?
That he coordinate.
He works with me to.
Make arrangements.
Traffic light.
Coordinate.
The bus route.
So you're just looking, so I should contact you and you tell me what you want me to do with these buses essentially. That's fine, wherever. Okay.
Maureen?
Rude.
That work for you? All right, Steve, are you willing to amend your motion to include that?
Sure.
Marcia?
Yes.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Be in contact, sir.
All right, can I get a motion to, for approval to provide the Aurora Ice Rink with a letter of support and no objections sent to the State Liquor Authority for one additional event to be held that includes serving alcohol?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second.
Second.
Second by Kristen. Further discussion? The applicant here to speak on it? Kathy or Liz, somebody want to just tell us what we're talking about? Make sure everybody's clear.
This is just a request that came in the mail, right, Maureen?
According to the letter that they sent in, they're only allowed 5 a year and they had some confusion amongst putting it in. They thought it was 5 a different way. So this is their 6th. So they need special permission from the municipality and the chief of police in order to have the 6th permit.
Shane, you okay with this? Did you sign off on it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moved by Steve, second by Kristen. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved? Now I gotta read everything in advance, Kristen, so that you don't pounce on me. I get a motion to schedule public hearings on September 20th to consider two local laws amending the village code and code, including one, establishing a code enforcement program pursuant to new state regulations, and two, adding to 285-30.3 a prohibition of erecting a fence within a shared driveway.
So,
Moved by Marcia, second.
Second.
Second by Grace. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Well, I
Oh.
was just wondering, how is she gonna, is establishing code, and are you gonna get to carry like?
Nope. No, New York
Enforcement
State,
in-
New York State is requiring all municipalities that have a code enforcement program, which yours is administered by our office because of the joint municipal agreement. You still have to update your code. The model law that's been adopted or adapted for the Village of East Aurora will replace Article 1 of Chapter 108, Building Construction and Fire Prevention. Article 2, which is the green building standards, will still stay the same. But this will spell out the activities, the duties, the responsibilities, the training, the reporting, how we handle violations, all of that. It is the nuts and bolts of my job.
Nice.
Any other questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Public hearings are scheduled. I get a motion to schedule a public hearing on September 20th for an application to keep three or more dogs. This just looks weird the way it's written. To keep 3 or more dogs from Molly McDermott. So Shane, if you see 4 or more dogs getting near this woman, all right, I need you to do something.
So she already has, when I was looking at, she already has 3 dogs. It looked like from the
Yeah.
sheet. Oh, she was gonna get that last
Oh.
one?
Yeah, schedule the public hearing.
Mhm.
Dogs to be kept on premises. And a lot of times people get the 3rd dog and then find out they needed a permit for it.
Okay.
So that might be the case. I don't know. I can't speak to it. No,
Yeah,
to
I guess it
increase from
says
2 to
when
3
get one,
dogs.
when
Yeah.
get one.
Plan to train a 3rd dog as a therapy dog for work and volunteering.
Yeah, I'm not,
293 Sycamore.
I'm not crazy about.
All right, so we're going to, all right, can I get a motion to schedule this public hearing for this applicant to go from 2 to 3 dogs at 293 Sycamore?
so
Moved by Marcia, second.
Second.
Second by Steve for the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, scheduled for September 20th. Can I get a motion to refer to the planning commission a site plan application for API Delavan at 270 Quaker Road for a 1,500 gallon storage tank?
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Second by Grace. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, it's referred. 1 second. Okay. Almost there. Can I get a motion to award the auction sale amounts from Auctions International as follows? 2017 Ford Explorer 2784 awarded to North White Auto in an amount of 15,500. And that I really screws me up. And 2, put a little I in there. And double I, 2018 Ford Explorer 0758 awarded to Skyway Road Service in an amount of 10,700.
Second.
All right, further discussion? Moved by Marcia, second by Steve. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the cloud permit software company for $0 for village data to be retained within the new software to be used by the town building and code enforcement department.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Second by Steve. Further discussion? From what I understand, this is standard with the software they're updating. It'll include, you need, right, Liz, you need the village data in there. And so this gives them approval to hold that data.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And we will work with Nick Federo, who is both the town and the village's IT, to come up with a backup schedule that will work for, that we will put into place. But this program is replacing our current program, which has your data on it, which has village data on it already. This particular company wanted to make sure that the village was aware and that they, you know, that you signed off on them hosting your information.
Any other questions? All right, moved by Kristen, second by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve the budget adjustments as listed.
So
Moved by Marcia, second,
Second.
second by Grace. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve the budget modifications as listed.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Molly, second, second by Marcia. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. All right, we're gonna go to 5B, new business, discussing the fire department's retention of the former chief's car number 9 for further use in the East River Fire Department and related costs, insurance, fuel repairs, etc. We'll start with 5B. Who wants to kick it off? Maureen? Firefighters, what do you think? All right. Okay. Fellas?
You have to come to the mic.
Read your name and address, please.
I'll be quickly.
Take all the time you need, Roger.
That's enough.
This past year, I don't know how the village board has been following the AMR performances without going into too much detail. But we've been having to supplement a lot of these calls, EMS calls, with our EMTs. Any given time of day, daytime, nighttime, really no pattern. But the unavailable of the car being 40 minutes out, we discussed as we're buying the new car, the possibility of turning this new the old 9 car, the chief's car, into a 7-1, which would basically be a light rescue fly car unit that our EMTs can use for safety regulations. One, I don't know if everybody got the email that I sent Maureen. Maureen, you sent everybody? The purpose is basically safety, our safety, public safety, and the safety of the residents of where it's going to the EMS call. God bless their souls, our EMTs. They're running ragged. Really, this isn't part of what the fire department does. We gave up EMS back in 1989, and with Gold Cross, and then followed by LaSalle, which morphed into Rural Metro into AMR. We don't want to get back into ambulance service. The reason why we got out of it because it was just too much. We couldn't supply the manpower for the volume of calls that we have for EMS calls. Lately, we've been relying on our mutual aid companies, and they're gracious enough to help. Unfortunately, I don't want to keep calling them. They have their own issues in their own communities. The availability of a car gives us lights and radio capability. In the event that there's something that needs urgent attention and the ambulance is 40 minutes away, well, we can communicate with dispatch and perhaps bring in another mutual aid company or another paid ambulance service to supplement till AMR responds to the call. Just the other day, we had a call on Sycamore Street, and we went because the car was coming from Cleveland Drive in Cheektowaga. The woman had a laceration on her head, we'll go into much detail. She needed attention, she needed stitches. And as I went, and I'm not an EMS personnel by any means, I have trouble putting on a Band-Aid, but I went just to see, because to communicate with our EMTs. And at that call, we had 14 vehicles at the street. Again, God bless our EMTs for coming, but they're coming from every direction in the village. responding to this call. We had Jamison Road come out to do the transport. So there was Jamison Road Assistant Chief, an ambulance, police car, me, and all the rest of the EMTs tying up. Everybody had to get down Sycamore. It would have been impossible. So getting rid of the congestion of everybody flying to residents in their personal vehicle. The idea is to come to the hall, pick up the 7-1 vehicle, which would be the old 9 car with EMS equipment in it, and respond like we would on a fire call. With red lights, it's visible. You pull up to people's residence, you're basically identifiable. When cars come up to people's houses, whether they're having a heart attack or bleeding, they don't know who we are. I could be wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, and basically half the time I am. So I guess it's a safety factor all the way around. For our people responding with their own personal vehicles, a blue light does not give anybody a grace period to, go through a stop sign or go through red lights and what have you. And really, the public doesn't give regard to a blue light anyways. I never used a blue light through my whole career because nobody pays attention to it. Red lights and siren, well, does it give you authority to go through a red light? No, you have to come to a stop and, yield away, but it also gives you people pull over a little bit more, at least better than a blue light. And you can get to the residence if someone's having a heart attack or a stroke. So it would eliminate, I guess, the safety factor of our people responding, the safety factor of the personnel at the home that knows that, they got firefighters that are there or basically there to assist them. So that's why we came here to ask the board to help us help you and help the community with our dedicated group of EMTs to use this 7-1 vehicle as some sort of fly car until we have the proper medical attention on scene. I don't see this problem going away. In fact, I see it actually getting worse. And we've been basically documenting since the first of the year, and my theory is correct. It is each month, it is getting a little bit worse. We're approaching winter, and what's going to happen to that ambulance that's coming from Ridge into 90, and we have a heart attack. I think we're very fortunate and lucky, at least I am, to have dedicated personnel like Neil next to me, who basically goes to a lot of these calls. And it's a phone tree between really the three of us. Are you going? Are you going? Are you available? And it's basically planning on a phone. What's the next recourse of action? To have the capability of radios and getting there safely, I think it's really important to our people. And I can't say enough of the dedication that they do, because really they don't have to do it. We're a fire department. We got out of EMS. We've been out of EMS for 35 years. But unfortunately, we're being thrust back into it. And they don't mind doing it. And that's the dedication of this group of individual men and women of the fire department that we have today. They want to help. They want to help the community. So I'm asking for your help to help them at least do their job safely.
Go ahead, Maureen. Give us the nuts and bolts of it.
Okay, so basically, the fire department buys the car with their funds that are not village funds. They gift it to the village with the only payback as when it's sold, they keep the money because obviously they bought it. We insure it, take care of it, do the repairs on it. So the cost to the village, if you allow them to keep the vehicle, at this point would be the cost of the insurance, which is
the gas,
very minimal,
the
the gas, and then any supplies you would be putting on that vehicle, which would go into their GL lines
And maintenance of the car,
and the maintenance of the car. Yep.
which our guys can do to some extent.
Matt is shaking his head. Yes.
All right, so.
And we do it now
If
anyways.
you had, right, so if you had a ballpark the cost in a year, just what, throw a number at us, we're gonna hold you to it. next
Without
year.
gas, because I don't know what gas is going, I don't know how much they're going to use it, so I couldn't tell you gas. I would say barring a huge issue with the mechanics, $1,500
$1,500 for the year
Mhm.
without gas,
without gas, because I don't know how much they're going to use it.
but it's serving kind of a new purpose that we haven't had before that the community, I think we all agree needs. What about, I don't know, what's that law that if you show up and then AMR is on their way and the patient refuses service, then AMR can bill whoever else showed up, or how does that work?
That's only if we have an ambulance. We do not have an
This
ambulance.
doesn't
so-
qualify for that.
Yeah, we do not have an ambulance. We do not. If we get one, we would have to follow that and we don't want
Yeah,
to do
I
that.
wanted to make sure this didn't qualify for that.
No.
Right,
That situation.
I think
That
this,
reduces our exposure considerably.
right, I think this can't transport patients, I think, right, from what I was reading, that's like one of the differences. Right. Mhm.
All.
Right, right.
To have qualified EMTs. Even if we have, we haven't had it. We can't practice at that level because we have AMR as our provider. So they have to provide as a basic, entity, as a basic EMT. But the experience on the ground, that carries a lot of weight.
Absolutely.
They may not practice. They know that, this person is a critical need for, whether we need to get an ambulance here right away, or they have that expertise, but they can see that. I'm not saying me, I don't, but they have the capability, of having them get to the scene on a timely fashion, especially when it's called out and said, the ambulance is 20 minutes away, or it's coming from Cleveland Drive, and there's a snowstorm. Capability of having somebody there, whether it's having a heart attack, stroke, or even bleeding from the head, to have that capability, I think is important for us.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we've talked before about that real criticality, especially with the heart attack, how those first few minutes, that percentage just, that's a huge deal.
Chris or Bob, is there any potential
Liability,
con or, liability, like what?
no more
You
so
guys have
than
anything to weigh in on this?
no more so than you would otherwise have. I mean, again, it's a fly car. You're not doing BLS or ALS. I'm sorry, basic life support or advanced life support. Because you don't have the emergency medical services department. So your liabilities, they're showing up anyway.
Right.
So your liability or exposure isn't going to be any greater. This simply gives them actually more resources.
So besides cost, I'm just wondering what other potential things are out there that we just need to consider before we say yes to it. Okay. Or voted on it. Sounds good.
You can vote on it this time. If you want to think about it, you can vote on it next time. I don't really have it on the agenda, but
Somebody want to make a motion to approve it?
I'll move.
No, we can move.
I'll make a motion. to
Moved by
approve.
Steve, second,
I'll second it.
second by Ernie. Any other discussion
I
about
think
it?
this is great. I say yes. I think this makes sense. Makes sense.
Right.
The cost is.
I was dead set against it, but it was presented so well. by you. And then you brought me all the way over, and I'm Team Roger now. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
You want to talk?
Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Neil, did you want to chime in?
These guys are great. Can't say enough. Supplement. Such a great working relationship. They're all firefighters. It really is a trouble.
Well, I can speak to the board. They thank you for the service you guys.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
Thank you for all.
We get it. We get it.
not just for that, but for waiting here for 2 hours just to get to present.
you. Overtime?
All right.
What?
That's 5B. 5A. Discussing the previous approval granted for an amended special use permit for the East Aurora Co-op Market at 591 Main Street. Who wants to talk about that? Kathy?
Do you follow up with the person who had sent the original communication?
I have not heard from anyone any further.
So
Talk about it. So the application was put in by the co-op. In the past, the applications had on it a section that had to be filled out by the owner of the property. Since then, in the code, the special use permits are per applicant, doesn't stick with the property. So when when the forms got changed, they took off that section. So there is a section that says owner, which the question is it the owner of the property or the owner of the building?
The business.
Of the business, yes,
Right.
of the business.
Mhm.
So we've been filling it out with the owner of the business since the form was changed because it's
That's who's running the.
who's running the show and who's doing the application, and it only pertains to that person. Now, if an applicant is not doing what the owner wants, even if we give permission, that doesn't give them permission to do that on the property. It gives them our permission to do it if it's allowed by their lease. So the person who sent the letter in is asking for the village to take away the approval that was granted to the co-op because they feel like they should have given a permission.
Well, the property
For-
owner wants us to rescind our approval to the business owner
Right.
because of how we interpreted the application.
Yes, and in the past, it was done where the owner had to sign off on it.
The
So,
problem was that the application changed, but the code did not.
What the
So-
code states that the owner of the property has to apply or the owner
Well-
of the business? What's
It-
the caveat?
It's not that clear.
it's not, it's not clear. It doesn't say either.
So why do we
It may,
get, so here's
the
the thing.
way it is, it can be interpreted fairly easily is that it's the owner of the property. Which is what caused, because we've had this
Which makes no sense.
discussion.
Which
To
doesn't
me,
make,
it's between the property owner and the tenant.
Mhm.
you know,
that's
as
their,
long as-
that's a separate.
Yeah, we don't need to get
Yeah.
into those.
Yeah.
Does the
true.
property owner not want this to happen? Is that why this came up?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
so Mr. Jaworski doesn't, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so do we get involved in their dispute? We already approved the business and they're acting within the special use permit we gave them,
Mhm.
correct?
It's
Then
not
we
violating
approve,
their lease.
well, that's not our problem.
That's not our
No,
problem.
That's an
Right.
outside issue.
But part of the problem is the way the code reads. And I gotta pull up the exact language.
So
Well, you guys keep
So we have a couple options in the meantime while he looks that up. So we can schedule a public hearing to bring back the candidate, which would be a month from now, and can talk about it then, and then you can decide at that point whether to revoke it or not, because that would be how you would revoke a special use permit. The village can also would still may want to address this particular one, but in the meantime, if you agree, if you feel like it is not the right way to have it worded in the law, we could do a local law, have a public hearing for a local law to change our local law for the future. And then if you deemed it inappropriate to have given the permit last time, we could have the person apply at that time once the law changes. Or they could get the approval from the property owner.
The problem is that the code says that one of the things you have to put on in the application is the owner of record.
Mm.
Now, in the phrase owner of record is usually used when you're talking about the property owner as the owner of
Okay.
record.
Yeah,
That's the property.
Owner of record.
that
of-
makes sense,
of
like tax
business.
records or whatever,
You
yeah.
You
would,
would interpret it that way, the owner of record for.
well, that, when
According
you
to-
change
Well,
the
it's
form,
how-
that's exactly what you
When
did.
you incorporate it.
When you
That's correct.
change, when you change the form, that's exactly what you did.
Right.
But the problem is the thing still says under 285-52-2A1. The special use permit form, including the name, address, and signature of the applicant, comma, owner of record, comma, and developer. Now, obviously, developer isn't relevant here. But because you've got applicant and
You say
also includes the
or-
owner of record. You use both, in the code uses both phrases.
Yeah, I get it.
Applicant
Right, so
and
they're
owner of
separate
record.
things. I get it.
Just put an or in there.
Yeah, can you go for?
You can't go back. It's-
You can, but it
doesn't.
Okay, so-
That's
Yeah,
the
we are-
first
we are.
instance, well, I think we gotta rectify it, number one, right?
They should.
Don't have a
They
problem
should
with that.
jive, they should jive.
Mhm.
And then in this individual instance, what's the suggestions here, anyone?
We could schedule a public hearing for September 20th. And then discuss it then and decide if we want to revoke it or not.
Oh, the special use permit or changing the law?
You can do.
I think we gotta change, we gotta jive. the
Yeah.
Well, we need to
words.
clean up
Yeah, but
the language.
Okay,
order on this.
Start with a simple question. You want it to be the applicant or the owner of the property?
Applicant.
Applicant.
Yeah,
This is their
Mhm.
business.
then they can.
And
The
then-
owner of the
They
property
need
will get
permission
to
from the
support
owner of
that
the
building if
property.
they don't like it.
Then, that's the easy part in terms of changing the local law. Okay. You'll still have the issue of their dispute, but
Right.
But that's their issue.
And then if we
So when-
change the local law, we don't need to revisit our special use permit for them.
well, the problem is you're doing
Yeah, we
it
do.
after the
Right.
fact.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could still
Timing.
revoke it and then they could come back afterwards and.
What was the impetus for changing it in the first place?
What do you mean, changing which?
The wording on the application, why they?
I
changed-
have no idea.
How'd this happen?
That was my
Yeah.
error. That was my error.
Pardon?
I
I
love,
was hoping to skate
I
by
wasn't
without
thinking.
admitting that in a public forum.
I love it.
By Flynn.
I
Sorry,
love. taking
Lance.
responsibility.
Call you out, pal.
Liz, you're going a whole nother step by doing that, by stepping up.
Honestly, I mean, it is. The only reason it came up is because we're lawyers and it's a technical term in terms of what owner of record means, and it would be a common and quite understandable mistake in terms of thinking it the other way.
So how do we proceed?
Nice guy, Chris.
Now that you know what we want, now that you know what we want, how do we
I'm
proceed?
not running the bus over.
Yeah, no.
What,
it
what'll
was
have
a
to
different
happen
error.
is, we'll change the code. So maybe you wanna set a public hearing for the code change
Right?
Yeah.
For the 20.
for the,
So
yeah,
September
sure.
20.
I just didn't know if it was during that whole process.
So we make a motion, can
The
I
whole rezoning
get a motion to
thing.
set a public hearing for September 20th to modify the code for our discussion?
285-52.2A1. Roughly.
Do we,
So
are we
moved.
setting a public hearing for,
Modification of village code, section 285-52.2A1.
are we doing it also though for the
Well, We're
co-op?
just gonna do that one first.
Okay,
Moved by Grace, second.
Second.
Second by Steve. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. We have now set the public hearing for the coaching. Now what's next?
So now
For the actual
code
applicant.
and the application
So do they have to reapply now?
No,
After we
no,
do
no,
this?
no, no, you.
We don't know what's
you-
gonna happen at the public
Yeah.
hearing, so we have to wait.
You have already granted the special use permit.
Okay,
So
The
if
question is, do
we,
we have to revoke it?
why would we?
That's
No,
up to you.
You can, but it was under.
Right, we don't-
Written there.
You don't have to.
Okay.
And then it would take someone to challenge it. Well, you said that owner of record, but you've made it clear that that was not your intent and that was not your understanding and it wasn't consistent with your form.
okay,
Okay.
so.
On the
if-
other hand,
If we pass this, right?
If
we
you
have a
change,
public hearing
yeah,
and
if you don't
pass it,
change the local
we
law.
don't need to do anything for special use permit, right? But if we do not
You don't pass
vote
the
to
local.
pass the change to the local law, then what do we do for the applicant? Or to the applicant,
Yeah, the latter part probably.
to
more
the
true,
applicant, right?
true. True.
So then we'll just address that at the time if we need to.
Yep,
Okay.
depends on how you guys vote
Well,
for
yeah,
the local
if
law.
I might suggest,
No pressure.
if you do decide to hold a hearing on the specific issue of the co-op, then when you hold the hearing, anyone could speak concerning it. And then you would have, I would imagine, the building owner here to say specifically why it is that they have concerns that you had granted, not just because they're the owner, but because whatever particular objections that they have that I don't believe we are aware of at this time.
So you're
Like to see
suggesting
out of-
two?
Yeah.
No.
No, it's, that's
can't
nothing,
he
that's nothing.
Can't he
we-
just
Yeah, we
come
don't
and
wanna
speak
get
at our?
He can come and
He
speak
could.
in terms of the local law. If you do not schedule, and my recommendation is you don't schedule a public hearing on revoking.
No.
Or doing.
Because
anything
we don't
with
need
special
one,
permit.
there's no.
He can come and speak at that.
Yeah.
And he could say, for example, and he could tell us what his issue is with it. He said, he could
Right.
say,
We're
I
just-
don't like that you're doing this
Sure.
because, for example, this could be a problem.
When
Yeah.
we first talked
So
about it,
we
we
get to
talked
speak.
about in terms of, that's an issue between you, the lessee and the lessor.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
all, that's their business, none of our business.
Right.
It only came up because of the phrases when I looked at. the-
All right, we're set with that though, right?
All right.
20th?
Probably
All right, we
not
set
as
that.
one open.
And we can cross out 5A. Second, speakers and communications. Anybody here want to speak on any
Sorry.
topic? Raise your hand and please come up and identify yourself.
Scott again, 58 Pine Street. I more or less just have a question so that I can understand and go home and explain to the people who are waiting to hear how this went tonight. I believe you all unanimously voted to rezone a portion of 70 Church. So from this date forward, now that is available as business property in village.
Subject to a
Regardless.
special use permit.
Right, well, right, but so even if Miss Frost decided, you know what, Florida sounds great, I'm going, and she left. Somebody else now can petition to put a business in there from this date forward.
yes.
Okay.
Subject to
That
the
was
special use
unanimously
permit.
decided.
But it's effective tonight. She's
Putting the cart
immediate.
before the horse. And I realize that everybody, you use the phrase kicking the can, and it's funny because the planning commission used the same thing when they referred it to you guys. So it's now, she has other hurdles to go through, but it's presumed that News Jar will open there eventually. And then, hopefully we'll be there 100 years and outlive me. But I just wanted to understand that. So this is now, we have commercial property in front of our house.
Well, what they can do as part of the special use permit process is lay conditions on how it is used, or, what's done with it in terms of the property. From
Well, my understanding,
vegetation.
there's certain businesses because of the footprint that can petition to be, and the.
Oh, yeah, there are
planning
other
commission,
things
when
too.
They kicked the can over here, said, well, we can't really say that it can only be this business and nothing else going forward. We'll let the village deal with that. So you guys are now kicking it over to the historical preservation people, I guess, but.
No, it's still us.
No.
So,
The
and I
special use
realize.
permits
But.
will come to it.
it's just in time. Realize that's a foregone conclusion. Everybody was in favor of News Jar as a business. I'm more concerned with the duration, going forward. Like I said in my letter, if businesses lasted forever, I'd still be shopping at Bell's and getting my jeans at Majors. And I mean, like, this is not, this is a long-term decision, looking, shining a light on a favorable business in the village that we all agreed we like. But this is taking residential property and making it commercial. So I just wanted to make sure that this is an immediate thing and that this is going forward. That's now business property in the village.
It is immediate, but I know you said it's a foregone conclusion for the special use permit. And that is our opportunity to lay conditions on it, on what we allow them to do or don't allow them to do. So they don't have carte blanche. We will be able to set certain parameters that ameliorate the effect it has on the neighborhood.
Is there something though in our code that you would have a grounds to say, well, okay, you can only, like the insurance agency on Pine, you can only operate between, I mean, I don't think they have restrictions anyways, but you know, you can only operate from 8 to 5, like, you know, a doctor's office. There was a mention of,
Mhm.
okay, well, a doctor's office could go in there. I mean, those businesses tend to work only during certain hours. This is not one of those businesses.
Hours.
Yeah.
Any reasonable.
Yeah,
condition
we can restrict it.
Can be set on stuff.
And I'm not looking to jam Vanessa up. I'm really not. This is not about her. This is not about Musar.
It's
This is about
No,
taking-
yeah.
It's not
We
about
don't think
her,
it is.
it's just not about her in terms of making decisions that they make.
I
Well, you know,
feel that-
yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, the restrictions that, the conditions they can put on it is, you know, it really doesn't matter to this board, it's her. It matters to this board, what's necessary to protect the individuals, not only them, but will also protect you and the other individuals in that area.
Well, and I feel like that was the case, if this was looking at it kind of blindly, where we didn't have a business in mind and looking at, should we rezone that piece of property for commercial, it would have been a much different discussion. I feel like the entire discussion revolved around the fact that it was this quaint little business in the village and everybody likes it and everybody likes the operator and isn't that great, and let's keep him here and we have this building. But there was no pressing need to turn that property into commercial, or it would have been rezoned that in 2019 when the zoning maps were adopted. So, I mean, this is what concerns me, is that this is not, there's no pressing need to do this. We didn't need more business. Although it sounds to me like this is the first I've heard of the plan. There's a plan to stretch the business district toward that section that East Fillmore is. I'm kind of confused. I heard somebody reference a plan.
Upper,
So is the village adopted and the property. Okay. Okay, so, but the only way to make the district inclusive of that is to rezone other properties in that area, which are currently, I mean, that it astounded me at the planning meeting and here that you could talk about rezoning people's homes without actually, like that could be something that's discussed without, you know, knowledge or consent of the homeowner. But so I don't know, I wasn't aware of that plan, but so I just wanted to voice, again, clearly, obviously, I'm very much opposed to this, but I wanted to understand what this means going forward. I do realize each business has to get a special use permit, and clearly you just had a conversation about potentially revoking one because of a dispute with a property owner, which actually, again, makes me go, you know, somebody else owns the property, somebody else is bringing a business in, something goes wrong, and things change. So,
But the reason the revocation language came in was to be able to make sure that they honor the conditions that are placed on them to limit the effect on the neighboring properties. And if they violate those conditions, then they can revoke the special use permit. It's done.
well, hopefully, you know, when that time comes up, the local neighborhood gets some weight in the decision of that. I feel
Mhm.
like everything is leaning very heavily toward the businesses, and I wasn't kidding when I said, you know, you really need to realize that, you know, the people who live in this village support the village as well, whether it's by going to a fire call or working with the local organization for developmentally disabled adults. They have just as much value as the businesses. And I thank you.
thanks, Kelly. Anybody else have any comments for speakers and communications? All right, moving on, department head report, Shane,
Nothing for that.
Matt,
We're building tennis court at the Dale Park. Paving, later this week. Putting in asphalt.
I have a question.
Unless it gets altered.
and an ADA compliant pathway betwixt the.
At the completion of the project. That'll be put in.
Yeah,
For the press, what he meant to say was.
he's right.
Okay.
Adam's right.
Adam just always ignores me.
So you were gonna get bids, I think, for fencing. Was that was something that was talked about, I think, at the last meeting? Okay. So I just want to say that I did get some feedback from a couple of residents that the hope is that it's not that that the fencing could be a little more attractive than the traditional chain link fence. I don't know what you're thinking or what. Okay.
Could be at a greater expense.
Exactly.
So Marcia,
Just wanted to say
I can talk to that, actually. I can talk to that.
Okay.
The idea we're thinking is the Friends of Hamlin reached out and said, hey, what about these artistic artisanal tennis fences that look pretty cool? Have you seen the photos? No, it was that guy with that really long Irish, that awesome
Yeah.
Irish name, you know, I don't even know how to say it. But he sent over a couple pictures and said, yeah, he said, even if it costs a little more, we would be interested in doing some sort of fundraising to cover the difference. So I talked with Kathy Maureen about the bidding process. And I emailed him back and said, hey, can you send me some more details on what you're thinking? And what we'll do is we'll put a bid together with just a chain link. And then this other fancy fence, perfect, fancy fence. And so then we can take the lowest bid on the chain link and the lowest bid on the fancy fence. It doesn't have to be from the same fence company. And we can say, okay, it's gonna cost an extra whatever X amount of money. And then we can reach out to the friends group and say, well, what do you think? I mean, or we could decide if we wanted to spend it. But if they want to pay the difference, then we could say to them, hey, it's gonna be this much more. What do you think? Is that in your reach? And we can kind of have that discussion then, but at least we'll have some hard
I don't
numbers.
think we should put a fancy fence up until we get the bathrooms done. Or not tell the public that, oh, we're gonna spend an extra X on this and we don't have good bathrooms.
I think we really need to think about how much money we're spending in Hamlin Park. People are not. I mean, I'm getting a lot of negative feedback about how much money we're spending at the park and,
Are you?
yeah,
Not.
yeah, questions about, the ARPA money and why you guys put it on a park and.
I've heard
Yeah.
from the two people who spoke today, but
Oh, I've probably heard from a dozen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I've heard about the bathrooms.
I agree with the bad.
Yeah, I had, and the, the one
Tennis
guy I talked to
courts.
made a good point about, just, finding a way
I
so
know.
it's vandal,
And we can simultaneously look at,
The tennis courts,
Both.
some big new building, a splash park. I mean, I'm just saying, I think we just need to be, think about how much money we're spending on the
So
park. Sure.
with the fence, though, is this a DPW installation or is it a fence?
No, it's-
fence.
Fence company?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it included installation or just material.
Anything else, Matt? All right, Liz, Kathy?
I did have quite a lengthy meeting with our insurance representatives. We did do our renewal was due at the beginning of this month. And we went over a lot of different things in detail. That's all of our big package. The only thing it doesn't include is cybersecurity, which that renewal is coming up, and workers' comp, which we renewed previously. So that was everything else that covered by insurance. So actually we've been using Banner for a few years now and they've been serving us very well. So we did end up with Travelers again as our carrier, which has been consistent since we've been with Banner. And they try to negotiate with them as rigorously as possible on pricing. So although pricing did go up but that is pretty much par for the course for that. So I also attended, I think I've told you a little bit before about these meetings about smoking and no smoking in the parks and public areas. The last meeting I went to, actually our school resource officer was there and other people from the area. It's actually all emanates from the Iroquois School District, but they had a prototype sign, but it was huge just for the no smoking. And it was really out of scale for what we would want at Hamlin. So maybe this is something else that we want to think about. Really our signage at Hamlin is probably not what we want it to be. If it's in different locations and it's kind of, probably need to think about what we want to have be proper consolidated signage for that park. That would also be attractive and again, not an eyesore. So I took a bunch of pictures that I can send them to you in any event, but that would include this group that I'm meeting with had one like poster size 24 by 36 sign, which is way too big. And it just had the symbols and the verbiage for no smoking, no vaping, no cannabis, and no e-cigarettes. So I don't know if we'll get on board with this group or if we want to do something more ourselves and take a good look and come up with what we really think is proper consolidated signage for the park is probably what I would recommend.
Okay, so how do we do that? I mean, like the wooden signs in the cemetery are nice and hand painted. And they tell you what you can and cannot do in there. And that looks a little better than a big metal municipal sign.
Well, I think that, I don't know that I think you could still have a metal municipal sign. But I think you want to think about the wording and again, sometimes we have like 3 signs in a row, all on one post, so they're different colors and everything. So maybe just if you had something, I mean.
So you're gonna put it together and bring it to.
Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Great.
Well, there's also the new Parks and Green Space Board we're setting up. Cause you look at sinking ponds, I think Ernie pointed out there's a lot of signs down there. I went down and
I
counted
call it signage ponds.
23 signs.
Wow.
23 signs. in
Is this what from the?
Oh, you drive in there.
Monaco, is that who?
Well, like,
That's whatever, there all sorts of.
Is it from the Friends of?
well, just a lot of stuff. Like when you walk in there and you turn that corner, you come around the old pump house from the the old waterworks, and now you just see all the signs. It's every, you're supposed to be looking at a beautiful, pond and woods and ducks, and all you see is all these signs everywhere.
So that
we could do
could be
better
another
than
one that could be reviewed.
Right.
I mean, have the signs, like on the entryway area or something, and maybe the one where you don't drive past this point, but that's about it. You don't need all the.
I think there's only one at South Street Sanctuary, so that's not a sign concern, but the other two, we definitely needed.
What is
tighten it up.
happening on creating this green space?
What's the step to create a new committee? How does that work?
What do you
It
want?
sounds like that's something.
How much
we
power
need
do you want to
move
give?
forward with. I mean,
Yeah, like the planning commission, an advisory board.
Well, there are, like the pedestrian bike board is an advisory board, which is much different than your planning commission
Right,
or your
yeah.
ZBA.
This would be an.
Which
advisory.
one do you
So
want?
more than PBB,
Okay,
pedestrian bike board.
and come up with the concept of what you want them to do, and then that's much easier in terms of, your resolution for creating it. And finding people that want to sit on it.
I think there's a lot of people that want to be heard.
I would be on it. I'll be the liaison because I'm on the Parks Committee anyway, or
You want to write up their mission statement?
and then, contact Pat Shea, and if he wants to do it, maybe, maybe we have.
We could figure out
The
attendees,
ways,
but
the
do you
ways
wanna-
might be interested, but
do you want to write up the mission statement for it? That's what we need, right? That's what Chris says we need
right
now.
out the gate.
Is somebody to
Well, no,
write up
Not
what,
necessarily a mission statement, but an idea of what you want them to do.
Like what sort of decisions are they
Well,
going to advise
advisory,
us on?
advice,
why don't we all email Ernie
Yeah.
what we think it should do? And you want to
Okay.
collate it, put it together and
Yeah.
and bring it back to the board and say, hey, here's what kind of everybody
I'm
is
just,
thinking we would do with it.
I just have a question. I know you said more than the pedestrian bike board. Did you say
More
that?
like-
No,
more
No,
like.
more like the pedestrian bike. Board. Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna
I
say.
said that.
No, I'm fine with that. I thought they said more than.
No, like the,
No.
like the PBB.
It
All right,
wa-
does that work for everybody? We all
Yep.
email Ernie our ideas for this board,
Mhm.
and then Ernie will shake it out and bring it back to the board and say, here's what we all kind of threw in there and.
I'll look at it with you too.
All right.
Very cool.
So I think another thing to keep in mind is that representation on that committee needs to be broad.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm saying that is we've heard a lot of feedback from the people that are surrounding the park, which is a really important voice, but our parks are for all residents in the village, and so we would
Smart.
need to be careful not to say, well, the people that have come and voiced their concern, I mean. I'd
You're
like
right,
to
it's gotta
see
be
us
a balance.
Well,
open
it would,
and ask for, every type for people who can interest,
Mhm.
something.
it would be, the Casanova Park, it would be even the Pocket Park by the Circle, it would be Hamlin, obviously Hamlin Park, Sinking Ponds. the old Baldy, which is actually a village park technically, even though you can't get to it.
So we get people from all over the village on it so that we have a good wide distribution. That's why. All right. All right, we still on you? You done? Maureen?
Code red. So I'm so sorry. So the town gave us a contract. Unfortunately, I cannot recommend that you sign this contract at this point. I think it needs more detail in it. It needs to be more specific to training and admin for the village. I have a list. I'm getting it all to Chris. Chris is also going to add to it because we just a couple days ago got over 100 pages to review because they changed how they're going to purchase it in order to meet their purchasing policy, which I asked about a long time ago. So we do have a lot more stuff to review. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have more information and maybe something that you could look at. We will be having to go back and forth with the town to make sure that the contract is usable and doesn't cause fighting. I just feel like one of the things we learned from the park is if it doesn't say it, nobody was there, they don't remember how it happened. We really just kind of have to be clear on how this is going to work.
So it's on hold for the town too, or they have gone forward?
No, they haven't done it yet.
They need.
We were waiting on them. They sent it over to us. Then they changed the actual contract they're gonna go with. So now we're evaluating the new contract with the vendor.
Yeah,
And we need to change up the actual agreement a little and fine tune some of the stuff.
No, it's kind of, they had to change the vendor because they had to go through the OGS in order to get it, to meet the purchasing policy.
We had more questions than there were clauses in the intermunicipal agreement.
Oh, boy.
Good. I think it's good to be thorough and make sure that all the i's
Yeah.
are
Right, you're right,
dotted
Molly.
and the t's are
You're right,
crossed.
Molly, because in 10
Yeah.
years or 15 years, if there's an issue and none of us are around,
Yeah, thanks for doing
people
the
can only
deep dive
go
on
with
that,
that
Maureen.
document. People can only go with that document.
Even if we are around, it's only what's in black and white.
All right. Anything else, Maureen?
No.
All right. Okay, Steve.
I'm all set.
Molly,
I'm good.
Marcia,
Nothing.
Ernie,
Nothing.
Grace.
I do have a thing, but mattress left, so it's not super helpful, but you were on the email, the crosswalk sign on Gerard gets hit a lot. And I talked to the Svensons who live right there and they said it's probably daily it gets hit. It's mostly because of distracted driving, people looking at their phones. It's during the day, it's not usually at night. And he said the other day, someone had put a note on the sign after they hit it that said, don't put this back. Because it gets hit every day.
A lot of times the signs get hit at intersections like that.
On there.
They walk both ways and then they're looking back this way as they're going.
Flip it.
And they look it happens that.
So one suggestion was, so it sounds like it's not really that, but putting one of the big speed hump crosswalks there instead. Or with that, but they're replacing those plastic placards on them constantly.
Yeah.
We're just buying them
See
to
it
get
sitting by
hit.
the curb.
Yeah. I think they should make that out of a boat bumper, but
Right, you should put a fire hydrant right there.
yeah, well, maybe not that. I don't know if there's any way to fix it or just people are gonna just keep hitting it.
Yeah, it's. With them in the street like that, they're gonna get.
Yeah.
Soon it'll be snow and it won't be an
It
issue.
won't be there anymore. He says they just hear them get hit all day.
Yeah.
But I texted one of your other officers, I'd like to see, I know he was saying that the state sometimes does whatever to increase the lookout for distracted driving, because I had a girl coming right at me the other day on my side of the street and I honked my horn and she moved right out of the way. I have it on camera. I sent him the video. It's ridiculous. But maybe if they did like the month of September where we're doing a better look at distracted driving and pulling people
I
over
mean,
for that.
we do. Stuff like that regularly. We also have the grant for the state, but they do have those details that we do those.
Mhm.
and-
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that, we put that sign there initially because there was a family on one of the streets crossing over to North Grove, and they were concerned about their children crossing there, and they wanted to be safer. Are there any kids that even cross there anymore? Is it even necessary to have that?
It varies, but for the school year.
Can we
It's
just
right
take
up
it
to
down
school.
after the school year, or just, you know, so it's not there all summer, and just put it back when, just have it there?
Yeah, I've seen, I just saw some kids go.
I'm careful.
Cross
I
there.
usually
cross,
yeah.
I even get out and move it back where it's supposed to be sometimes.
Yeah.
After you hit it?
Not after I hit it.
I don't know, you take it out.
Yeah.
No, I often drive with my wife, and it's like driver ed, you know, she tells me how to drive and. You know, that's the truth. She ride in the back of the car with me.
So we just let it get
I don't
hit.
make a lot of mistakes driving. 'Cause I
How do you
have-
want it to see?
I've got a built-in driving.
How do you want it to see?
I don't know what the solution is.
Having a sign there. All the tenants.
Yeah.
And I think that's. important. So. Basically, if you just take the sign away.
Right. I would just like a better sign that could take the hit of a
Is there
vehicle.
another, yeah, did the state,
That's
the
what
state
I
have
want.
another sign they could use? I mean,
I looked into them. I couldn't find one that looked more hit resistant.
yeah.
To make you feel at least comfort in groups. Short of the big lights that they have in the village of Waverville on Main Street, those other signs in other municipalities get picked off all the time.
Oh,
And I can't tell you the number of times, you know, it's like they end up being replaced.
all right. I'm gonna have a patent for a new crosswalk sign soon.
There you go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that
There you go, go for it.
You know, it should just be a simple little plastic piece with a. Like,
A boat bumper. Here's,
no,
Let's fill it with,
something that you won't
Go
even
over
scratch you if you hit it.
yeah,
Yeah.
just pops back up.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're not wrong.
They will pick off those A-frame signs just as quickly.
but what about something that actually does make a mark on the car, but not the
Oh,
sign?
our signs do.
Put some paint in there like those
Yeah,
things. at the
sprays paint it.
department store, you know, where You hit it and it's sprays the car, then you can pull them over later and go, I know you hit a sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a tough route.
yeah.
3 hours later, everybody's getting tough. All right, Grace,
That's it.
Median sign at the circle on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
People
That
go to the gas station, run that over right to the unit.
that was doing real damage.
Yeah.
it'd be great to do speed bumps, but Matt says you can't.
Yeah.
You get the
Well,
ones that
it's
you
like-
throw into the ground and pull them out,
Well,
right?
they can't. That's
Yeah, we could do
chopping
that.
them apart. So you won't have a bump, you'll have a.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we did that.
All right, Kristen?
Yeah, I'm gonna ruin this also. So the,
You get your.
yeah, that's right. The capital committee has been meeting since May, really kind of revamping everything since, doing, as you talked about earlier, doing Oakwood and doing the culvert sort of really limited our discretionary spending, and then COVID happened, so we're really kind of getting everything back into gear for the past handful of months. But we've been meeting with department heads and getting sort of wish lists put together, and then we're going to go from there and structure kind of priority order. Get the priority order, get the, you know, rough cost estimates and stuff like that. To have everything all put together. So another email assignment for the board. We would like you to please think about items other than, so we have a bunch of stuff from the DPW, including some stuff for the police building. We have a list of things from the fire department. But sort of, you know, anything else on people's minds as,
Can you share all that with us?
Absolutely.
In an email?
yes, yeah, I can read it now, but.
No, thank you.
You guys will get it with the plan. It'll all be ranked and all.
No, she wanted to see what it is now before, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I can send that out.
It's besides fire.
all right.
All right, so you're gonna send an email out to the board.
Yeah.
asking, letting us know what you need
I'll let you know what I have already, and then, so what we're looking for.
and what you're looking for. We'll provide feedback
Mhm.
that the capital committee will then work into their force ranking of
No, no, no,
priority.
hold on.
projects.
No, we're not looking for feedback on what the department heads requested. We're looking for ideas.
I didn't say
Yeah,
that.
but you said you're looking for feedback for stack ranking.
Yeah,
we're
she's looking for feedback from us so that she can force rank it.
No.
I thought you
Yes,
wanted projects from us,
Looking for projects from you, yes.
so you guys can force rank.
Yes.
Yeah, different projects that are not part of the
Additional
projects we
project,
already
yes.
got.
We're on the same page, we're just saying it with
Okay, can we
different
move
words.
on?
Yeah, that's good. So you're gonna let us know and we'll all get back to you with.
Yep.
Okay.
Get past my bedtime.
Mine too.
All right, well, I was gonna thank Matt for putting up the rest of the vet banners. We're up to 42, which is 84 veterans represented on the polls now. When there's just enough room for them, some summer flags and all the plants that they water, so we're pretty much full for now. Those will be up for another, I don't know, maybe the rest of the summer, we'll see. And then,
That would be nice.
yeah, and then in the fall, we'll put up classic fall flags. And then we'll put the veterans banners back up. A lot of labor for the guys, but they've been great about it. They'll put the veterans flags back up for around Veterans Day. And then at Thanksgiving, they'll come down and the holiday decorations will go up.
So going forward, will this be more a Veterans Day thing, or will this be a twice a year
I don't
thing?
know, a lot of communities have them up. I've been driving around, a lot of communities have them up for the summer for Independence Day. You know,
So
I like the mix
versus
of flowers
Memorial
and
Day.
banners. you know,
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
It just seems like, yeah, if you have flowers and you're doing all that too, it's easier to put it with Veterans Day, because it's.
Just Veterans Day, yeah, because we can't do Memorial Day.
No, because the kids are still. up.
Because the high school banners are still up, right? And you try to time it so that if you take one down, they're simultaneously putting the next thing up. you
Right.
know? Yeah, I guess the board we can talk about it next year and if we want to do them in the summer, next summer. Or just do them in the fall around Veterans Day or how we want to proceed.
We have a list of which veterans were, because I'm still trying to find my 90-year-old veteran friend. I'm going up and down Main Street looking and. Wonder if they have a
Everybody who
list.
had a banner already made by maybe a week and a half ago
Is up.
was told they'd go up. And everybody who would like ordered and the banner was being printed in 2 or 3 weeks by the printer was told theirs would go up in November.
And it should be up there, then I just have to spend time looking for it.
It's kind of fun. I love something that looks on the one guy's got like a dog. The other guy looks like he's like a Coast Guard guy. He's got a big grin. He looks so happy. I don't know. I just like it. It's cool. I think it's really cool. At any rate, let's see, we've made big progress on the PBA contract. So hopefully we'll have an update for you next time we get together. And the last thing was Rob Galler's, the historian, pointing out that flagpole that's been there for 100 years. He's not over there. Yeah, we're gonna figure it out because it said, I think the article is interesting. It said the residents used to go out and take the flag down every evening. So I don't know how that would look nowadays, but yeah, we need to clean it up, landscape it, do something with the flag,
Which
do
one?
something with the
Hamlet?
tree branches in the area. Light it, the flag has to be lit. So we're working on that too. So thanks to Rob Galler for pointing that out for us, him and his group. All right, that said, we need to go into executive session for a personnel matter of a. That's it, that the village may or may not vote on a motion when we return. Did you write this on here? It's fun. It's like one of those kids things. You're like. On that particular issue when we get out. All right, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Steve, second by Marcia. Further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, we are in executive session. Thank you all for coming tonight. If you don't come back.
Okay, recordings are on.
Can I get a motion to retroactively approve a leave of absence for 16 days with no pay for a particular person? So moved by Marcia, second by Steve. Further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Approved? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I will.
Moved by Marcia, seconded by Steve. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.